Welcome in, everybody, to the Rant. I'm Pugs Moran. We do this every Monday through Friday here at the Kelly Moore Memorial Studios in the beautiful E-Gallery in Dallas's Design District. What are we? We're a talk radio show. We do talk radio the way talk radio was supposed to be done. It's not done like this anymore. You listen to talk radio in this country, it's primarily on the AM band, and I don't know how many of us under 45 know what the AM band is, but that's where talk radio resides in this country. And it's all sports and it's all politics. Now, Pugs Moran, pleased to meet you. I started doing talk radio in Chicago back in 1992, moved to Dallas in 2001, stopped doing it in 2012. Why? No, 13. Why? Because what I just told you. I don't do politics. And although I could be the country's best sports talker, I choose not to. God, just the idea of being, I love sports, but just the idea of being hemmed in where all you can do, you got 4 hours to fill with sports. I just can't get that excited about 4 hours worth of that. At some point, I'm going to want to talk about TV, right? I'm going to want to talk about news. That's what we do here. It's talk radio for normal people. Got a theory that 15% of the people on the right are gone forever. 15% of the people on the left are gone forever. We can't deal with them. That leaves 70% of us here in the middle. The normal folks, the normal Americans who don't like everything about our neighbors. But you know what? We're not going to get arrested in a Target. We're not going to get ushered off an airplane in handcuffs and then go viral. And we're all still invited to our families' Thanksgiving dinners. That's who this stream is for. We've been doing it every day for 3 years. And, it's just talk. It's talk about the world. I'm going to give you everything that you need to know about today. Information and some fun. We're going to screw around. We got a chat room. Come join the chat room. The chat room is great. Peter's in the chat room. Al's in the chat room. Jeff, Barney. Who else? Wait a second. I always got to make it bigger. I saw more. I saw that Taronda was in first. CC, Sports Bras, Rob Barr. Everybody, come on. Our chat room is fun. The show is presented in a stream of consciousness. That's just that's a guy, me, just talking alone. Kind of like Rush Limbaugh, except Rush was a amateur. Rush had like commercial breaks and Oxycontin breaks and all that shit that he was into. Now me, I just start talking. I start talking around about noon every day, and then at 2 o'clock, sometimes a little bit after 2 o'clock, we're done. And what we've done is just consistently discuss the world today, the specifics of today. 4 quarters is how this stream of consciousness presentation unfolds. The first quarter, we call that antecedently on this day. It's just this day in history, that's all. Don't overthink it. Quarter 2 is birthdays. Again, don't overthink it. Quarter 3, we talk about people who died on this day. Celebrity deaths, those who have left us, historical figures, notable quotables, whatever. And then we look at their lives and we decide, did they go to heaven when they died? Or did this son of a bitch probably go to hell and he's burning there forever? And thank the Lord. If there is, in fact, the Lord. We've got big breaking news. We're going to get to that. See, there's big breaking news happening right now, but it's political. So we don't stop down the show for any divisive political bullshit. Although, let me say, I think I predicted this. Like, from the get-go. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Big breaking news. So stay tuned in quarter 4 when we get to all the day's hot topics, current events, and headlines. Hi, Jen. Jen is here. Let's see, any other girls? Any more girls? Where's our girls? I know what we got. We got one girl. We got one girl who's today's executive producer. That's right. This show, if I could direct your attention to the bottom of the screen where you will see an entertainingly written scroll. There you go. Boom. That's how you help this show continue. As I say, it's a stream of consciousness. We've been doing it for 3 years. We don't take advertising. We don't seek advertising. We don't have advertising. I think that's the way to say it. So you folks, from time to time, when you like a little something you hear on the show, you drop a little thing. And others of you who have become codependent on this show, as I have, you are fearful of the prospect that it will go away if I got to go drive Uber, or whatever. So you tip the show consistently. We appreciate that. That's how we have stayed in business all these years, and I do thank you greatly for that. But a way that I say thank you is every day we awarded an executive producer. An executive producer is the person who tips the largest amount on the previous day's show. They're the reason that we're still doing it. Thank you to today's executive producer, Tracy D. Tracy D, thank you. One of the 15. By the way, yesterday, one of our people, April's been missing. We haven't seen April around here in a while. There was some talk yesterday in the chat room. I noticed it before that. And then somebody in the chat room said, hey, where's April? And I got a little concerned. But I don't know. I think she's just busy, maybe on vacation or something, because I found her. She's on Blue Sky. We're following each other on Blue Sky. She's there. She posted something a couple of hours ago. So April's good. She'll come back when she can. Barney in the chat room says, we of the chat are collectively pugs. Mr. Snurdly. Okay. All right. Mr. Snurdly. Howdy, all. Howdy to you, Al. Hey, here's something that I was thinking about. I'm a middle-aged white guy who's in not great shape, who used to play organized sports as a young man, who still has the mindset somewhere in the back that I can do that, but I can't because I'm fat and old and I break easily. Pickleball. Hey, you know what? Any of you people that are listening right now, just that aren't white dudes or white ladies, sit down for a second. And again, I'm not marginalizing you in this moment. I just want to directly talk to my white people. What's going on with pickleball, man? Well, where did this come from? This has been like, I don't know. I think the first time I heard it was maybe 2 years ago, and I went, that's funny. And I just never thought about it again until now. Now I live in a world that is just endlessly being invaded by that, quite honestly, racket noise of stupid pickleball. That is the most irritating sound a sport has ever produced. I would much rather listen to NASCAR from the pit lanes. I would rather hear that than that racket of pickleball. That's a terrible sound. They got to do something about that sound. You know the pickleball sound? Have you ever heard it? Do you live, God forbid, near a pickleball court? Because nothing seems to travel like the sound of... I mean, it's worse than batting cages. It's worse than a driving range. It's like 10 times louder than a driving range. Pickleball is stupid. You know what that is? You know what the sounds of pickleball in the suburbs is now? It's white people gunfire. That's exactly what it is. It's omnipresent. Going to the ghetto. Hear the gunfire. White people gunfire. What is the attraction to the sounds of pickleball? That is like the most... Is it that... Isn't it like midget tennis? Isn't that what it is? Like if you took midgets and you put them out there and you gave them pickleball stuff, wouldn't you now be playing tennis? I don't know. Should I try it? I got a buddy, Robbie. He's like really good at pickleball. And he's always like, dude, pickleball. And I'm like, oh man, dude, I'm a pickleball champion. And I'll be honest with you, Robbie used to be a heavy-set guy. And through pickleball and I believe Ozempic, he looks amazing. I'm gonna give more credit to the Ozempic from what I've seen in pickleball, but tell you, if you ever want to see all the injuries your grandpa has ever had in his life, go watch him play pickleball. I mean, everybody out there is wrapped up. There's dudes with like knees all wrapped up in arms and shoulders. It's crazy. Should I try it? Does anybody in the chat room play pickleball? Cece says it's slow adult tennis. Barney says it's like Gen X soccer. I guess my question on pickleball is this. Is it real or is it a fad? Like, is this something like in 15 years, will we be talking about pickleball? Like, hey, remember when we used to break dance? Yeah, is it like that? Or is this something that's going to stick around? Because my God, it seems like there were pickleball places popping up everywhere. I mean, in suburbs, in what, or adjacent to white people apartment complexes. I'll tell you, you know what? Here's what I think is going on with pickleball. I think that the white man because we've been dominated athletically in every other sport. Soon as we let the non-white man play a sport, no longer do we have the white man being the dominant guy. So I think we're constantly trying to invent new sports that, at least for a moment in time, we can dominate. Because I promise you right now, the best pickleball player in the world is probably a dude over 40. I don't know if there's even rankings for pickleball. That's what it is. It's just the latest sport white people came up with so that they could be really good at something. But I'm telling you, start building some pickleball courts in some, inner city neighborhoods. And I think that's going to change. Bill Folk says it's fun. Yeah, man, all my friends say it's fun. All my friends who do it say it's fun. And I've gone out and I've watched. And I don't go out and watch a lot because, again, that damn noise. I mean, you people can acknowledge the noise, right? That it's not a good noise. It's not a pleasing noise to the human ear. Literally, gunshots are more pleasing than the sound, because at least with a gunshot, there's, sometimes a smoky residue, I don't know what I'm saying. It's a stream of consciousness. Anyway, Byron says my golf club dug up my favorite putting green to put in a pickleball court. Yeah, it's happening. I don't know. Anyway, pickleball. I just thought I had a few thoughts on pickleball and thought I'd share it with you guys. All right, what do you say we get started with the show? Let's start the quarters. All right, the clock has already begun running. Got some big news to get to that's happening. Lots of fun stories to talk about today. We're going to talk about Ellen. Ellen's got it all up in her. She's getting out of the country. We'll talk about that. What else are we going to talk about? Cabinet picks. We'll go through a whole bunch of cabinet picks. We're not going to dwell on that because we don't do politics. But I'll tell you, I'm giving you an update. Here's what the headlines are saying. And we got a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, let's get started. Thank you to Tracy D, today's executive producer. Let's get started with today's rant. Today is the 21st day of November, year of our Lord, 2024. Did you know that there are 326 days of 2024 gone in the past? 40 days, a month and like a week and 3 days. That's all we have left in 2024. So get those New Year's Eve plans started. Quarter one begins now with a little segment we call Antecedently on This Day. It's where we take a look back at all the events that have helped shape our understanding of what November the 21st has represented in the past. Antecedently on this day, or previously on November the 21st. Antecedently on this day in 1620, Plymouth colony settlers signed the Mayflower Compact. Thanksgiving next week, 1620, Plymouth colony settlers signed the Mayflower Compact. Of course, we all understand the Mayflower Compact to have been an agreement that nobody was going to talk politics. That was it. Nobody talks politics at dinner. That's the Mayflower Compact. Antecedently on this day in 1877, Thomas Edison announces his invention of the phonograph, a machine that can record and play sound. Wait, what? The phonograph? So the phonograph, the record player. I'm talking about the record player. So the record player had a feature that they over the years designed out. There was an original feature of the Thomas Edison phonograph that could record and play sound. They should have ran with that. On this day in 1877, the record player was invented by Thomas Edison. On this day in 1905, Albert Einstein published his paper that leads to the E equals MC squared, whatever that is, equivalence. I don't know what that is. I don't. Math, not a math guy. Here's what I know about Einstein. I know all about Einstein. I know all about the man. I know his biography. I know his history. I think I have a good understanding of the kind of person that he was and the way he saw the world. I have a historical understanding and knowledge of Albert Einstein. He's a very interesting man. What I have zero knowledge is of what he did. I have no idea what E equals MC squared is. And I had remedial math my whole time in high school. I did not. I hate math. You know what I hate? You know why I hate math? My therapist explained it to me. Because we were talking about that. I'm like, why? I don't know why. I just didn't do math. I looked at math and I was like, no, fuck it. I'm not doing this. I'll take whatever happens. I don't need this. I can do 5 and 5. I understand, the increments of 10. That's all I'm really going to need. My therapist told me that I reject math because I have a hyperactive, creative brain that doesn't like absolutes. And math is an absolute. I was like, what? That's what happens. I'm like, okay, it makes sense. I got to work on that. Got to work on having a less aversion to absolute things. Antecedently on this day in the year 1920, we're going to get serious here for a minute. We're going to dial it down. We're going to talk about me and my peoples. Today's the anniversary of the Croke Park Massacre. A lot of you don't know what the Croke Park Massacre is, but if you were Irish Catholic in America, raised in the time that I was, you probably had grandparents or some knowledge through, I don't know, cultural hangs of the Croke Park Massacre. Croke Park Massacre happened on this day in 1920, Bloody Sunday. You've heard of Bloody Sunday. I'm sure you know the U2 song, Sunday, Bloody Sunday. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. This is the Irish versus the British. This is the Croke Park Massacre is probably a cornerstone reason as to why I see terrorism in the way that I do, the duality of terrorism. When I say I see the duality of terrorism, that doesn't mean that I advocate for the senseless killing of civilians. No, but I am Irish, and I understand the role of the IRA, and I understand what they were doing and what they were fighting against, and I understand that something like this happened in 1920, the Croke Park Massacre. Let me explain. I've told you before about my love for Michael Collins. He had a group of dudes. Michael Collins was a terror leader. Let's call him the Osama bin Laden of Ireland. Michael Collins had a terror squad, the 12 Apostles, of which one of my ancestors was the intelligence officer of, Liam Tobin. The 12 Apostles were sent out into the streets of Dublin by Michael Collins to assassinate all British personnel they saw. If a cop was standing on a street corner, twirling his baton, the 12 Apostles walked up behind him and shot that British cop in the head and then ran. This was an ongoing attack against the British oppression of the Irish people in Dublin. They'd had enough. So, I just told you that story. You're saying, that sounds awful. How could they do that? They're terrorist monsters. Let me show you why the 12 Apostles did what the 12 Apostles did, okay? And why there is, if you're willing to look at the world through less than your eyes of today, in 9/11 and all that, you can see that there is a duality to terrorism. There are two sides to it. We, the patriots of 1776, were decried as terrorists, although I don't know if they had that word, but a similar thing by the Brits. We were terrorists. People fighting for their beliefs has been called terrorism for centuries. Now, of course, it all comes down in the end to what are those beliefs. If those beliefs are you don't think women should be allowed to drive, then yeah, your terrorism is a little bit less than others. But so the 12 Apostles were sent out into the streets of Dublin and just started whacking dudes, British judges, British parliamentarians, cops, detectives, whatever it was, blood in the streets. They'd had enough. And that's terrible, right? So let me show you what happened. I'm going to share with you a picture of the Croke Park Massacre. What drove these good, normal people, these Irish men and women, to do these things, okay? I'm going to show you a scene from the film Michael Collins. Many of you haven't seen it because it's not a very widely seen film, although I think in Irish families it's probably required viewing. This is the Croke Park Massacre scene from Michael Collins. Now, what you have to understand here is that this is a Sunday afternoon. Imagine an NFL game. It's like an NFL game on a Sunday afternoon in Croke Park in Dublin. And the British decide to drive their tanks in. And this is what happened. This is the Croke Park Massacre scene from Michael Collins. This really happened. And this is what drives normal people, God-fearing, law-abiding individuals to fall into a category that some might call a terrorist. Get the idea? Oh, you're a monster. You killed that You killed that British soldier standing on the corner. He wasn't doing nothing. Why'd you kill him? Because my 9-year-old daughter caught a stray from one of your tanks when she was just attending a football game last Sunday. That's why. That's why people become terrorists. Oppression. On this day in 1920, the Croke Park Massacre. On this day in 1927, another massacre occurred. This is a weird one, though, because this one is strange for me. Did you know that on this day in 1927, the Columbine Massacre occurred? Did you know that there were 2 Columbine massacres? Do you have any idea of that? Did you know that the school shooting was the second Columbine Massacre? Yeah, it was on this day in 1927, the Columbine Massacre. Striking coal miners in Colorado are allegedly attacked with machine guns by a detachment of state police dressed as civilian clothes. Look at that. 2 examples right there. 2 examples of government oppression. Can I talk to my MAGA friends here? Can I just talk to my MAGA friends? Because my MAGA friends, they always talk about government oppression, about how this government is oppressing them, about how this government is just, I can't do anything. It's all so terrible for you. And it must be destroyed. It must be burnt down and all of this stuff. It's never been like this before. I just gave you 2 stories from history where well-established, modern-thinking Western governments did things to civilians that I think define oppression a little bit better than what we all think we're going through here in America. What do you mean you're forcing me to sign up for health care? That's oppression. The state police in Colorado showed up at a mine on this day in 1927, dressed out of uniform, and slaughtered striking working men. It's crazy. So don't look, all of this shit has happened before. The world is not, look, we're in a dangerous place right now because of wars and all that. But as far as our society and our everyday life for the American citizen has been far worse and far more perilous than it is today. We've been in danger before. This was America. These were state police in America murdering striking workers, probably for a little extra cash in their pocket, I'm guessing. Antecedently on this day in 1959, American disc jockey and one of the cultural icons of this world, although he's not a name that's remembered as such, American disc jockey Alan Freed on this day in 1959. Do you know who Alan Freed is? Well, maybe, but you know his greatest creation, rock and roll. That's right. Alan Freed is the guy who invented or created, named, founded, the original curator of the radio format that would come to be known as rock and roll. He was the first guy to say it. He described this race music that he was playing on white stations in Cleveland. He was playing black music that wasn't allowed to be played. He was playing it as race music, and he was allowed to do it because he was doing it at night. He was playing it to white kids, and they'd been very worried about this. That's why black music was played on black stations. Yeah, that was America in the 1950s. Hell, this was almost 1960. So Alan Freed started playing black people music on white people stations. And let me tell you, your grandma and grandpa at the time, or maybe even great grandma and grandpa, back there in Cleveland, they thought he was the devil for doing that. Oh, he was Howard Stern times 10. How dare he expose white children to this race music? And instead of calling it race music, he called it rock and roll. And it became a hit. And then guess what happened? And then all the white music labels went, apparently this is a thing now. So let's just get a whole bunch of white guys and let's just have them cover all these original rock and roll. And that's the birth of rock and roll. Alan Freed. It was on this day, American disc jockey Alan Freed, who had coined the term rock and roll and music of that style, is fired from WABC Radio in New York City over allegations he participated in the payola scandal. There you go. His career was ended. He broke the whole thing of rock and roll. He called it rock and roll. He was the first guy to play it. He was the first guy to put it out there in front of people so that people could go, I like this. And it turned into a thing. He was the first guy to do these concerts, rock concerts. There had never been a rock concert. Alan Freed invented the sock hop, the rock and roll sock hop. That was him. He did all of this stuff, and he died penniless and broke because the man decided that they wanted to make all the money off of his payola. I'll tell you about payola. You know what payola is. We think payola is bad. Payola is not bad. I've seen all kinds of payola in my life in radio. It used to be that Alan Freed was allowed to go into his radio studio and play whatever he wanted because he was Alan freaking Freed and he invented the genre and he knew what it was. Nobody else could tell him. Who was going to program the music for a rock and roll show when it was the only rock and roll show? Alan Freed, it was his thing. So, people wanted to get their records played. So it used to be a big competition and they'd slide a little money. They'd say, hey, play this new Pat Boone song. It's a cover of Hound Dog by Elvis Presley. Play this new, this Buddy Holly song, whatever it is. And they'd slide in a little money. And he took it. Because, I don't know. He's a DJ, so he's probably kind of a skanky dude to begin with. But died penniless and broke. Alan Freed on this day. Fired from WABC. Never worked in radio again. Actually, I think he did. He changed his name. I believe he changed his name and he started just being like a vagabond DJ. Antecedently on this day in 1980, a deadly fire breaks out at the MGM Grand Hotel in Nevada, Las Vegas. It's now Bally's. 85 people are killed and more than 650 are injured in the worst disaster in Nevada history. Two things about the MGM Grand fire. First and foremost, my beloved late great partner, Kelly Moore Close. Kelly Moore, let's call her Kelly Moore. Let's shorten it, no offense, but her parents, mom and dad, Big Ed and whoa, what's Kelly's mom's name? Holy shit. We're going to call her Linda. Big Ed and Linda were at the MGM Grand on the day that this fire broke out. They were in the fire. And Kelly always tells the story about being a little kid and being at home and watching it on the news. Like ABC broke in because they had a helicopter up there and they were showing the MGM Grand. And she's like, I just remember sitting there watching going, my mom and dad are in that. They got out safely, thankfully, but 85 people did die. This fire in 1980 at the MGM Grand is the reason this doesn't happen anymore. These kinds of hotel fires and apartment building fires and were huge casualties, 85 in this case, used to be pretty common. Used to happen a couple times a year. Well, whatever. Now they just happen in Singapore. Now they happen in Brazil. You know why? Because after the 1980 MGM fire, we got serious about fire codes in this country. Now, I know a lot of people call that regulations and everything, but we ain't had anything like this since. Started stripping away regulations, especially in states like Florida. And although we haven't seen any mass problems with it, we did have a fucking condo building fall over a couple of years ago in Florida. Who needs regulations? Probably a lot of bureaucratic bullshit. Folks, we need some regulations. I'm with you. I think the bureaucracy is bloated and there's red tape everywhere and we don't need it all. But please, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need regulations. Otherwise, shady businessmen will build cheap buildings and they'll kill people. MGM Grand on this day in 1980. On this day in 1986, National Security Council member Oliver North and his hot secretary, Fawn Hall, they were shredding documents. Remember the Oliver North Fawn Hall thing? This had everything to do with the Iran-Contra. Iran-Contra. No, I'm not from Chicago. Iran-Contra. Remember Fawn Hall? She became a big star. Country, we're just so stupid. Fawn Hall was Oliver North. He had a job in the Pentagon. He was a colonel. Apparently, they were involved in some things, having to do with Central America and all of that, and crack cocaine and AIDS and all that. I'm just gonna, look, you open up that box, that Pandora's box, the Oliver North, what was going on there, Pandora's box, you get to a whole lot of crazy shit. Fun, crazy shit. A lot of shit that I believe, but a lot of crazy shit that's actually been proven now through the eyes of history. 25 years later, open up them records. 25 years we'll know. Well, it's been 25 and we now know. Anyway, Fawn Hall became a huge star in this country simply because she was bangable. People were they put her on the news and everybody was like, hey man, did you see his secretary? Would you do her? I mean, that became seriously the biggest story in the country. Fawn Hall, she's pretty hot. I think it was because that was around a time in this country when we started to do that, just make media creatures famous. And if they were sexy, Sex scandals began to happen, right? We had, who were the big three? Like, I think the big three of the original, like, media creature sex scandal chicks are, of course, Donna Rice, who tanked Gary Hart's career. Remember Donna Rice sitting on his lap on the monkey business? That was the boat. They were on a boat. That was that picture. He was going to be president. But there was a picture of a chick sitting on his lap on a boat, and he couldn't be president anymore. Weren't they cute back then? Weren't they cute? The dude was gonna be president. Gary Hart was like killing in the polls. And then, you know, they found a picture of a girl sitting on his lap on a boat. Nothing sexual. Looked, it could have been his daughter for all that, you know. But no, he couldn't be president anymore. That was disqualifying for the American people of 1988. So that was Donna Rice, right? And then we had Jessica Hahn. Remember her? Jessica Hahn took down Jim Baker, the religious guy. And then we had Fawn Hall. Fawn Hall was the secretary of Oliver North. Fawn Hall, the only one not directly involved in a sexy thing, or at least an alleged sexy thing, but she was the hottest. I think Fawn Hall was the hottest. That was on this day in 1986. National Security Council member Oliver North and Fawn Hall began shredding documents. On this day in 2019, Tesla has, today's the day they did it? Really? It's been that 5 years ago? 5 years? No. Well, I get maybe it took a couple of years to get them into production. 2019, Tesla launches the Cybertruck on this day. Now, this is funny because we know about all the problems the Cybertruck has been having. I mean, they're well documented on Twitter and YouTube. You can see them all. They're expensive, and there's been like 50 recalls. You know, they just look. But here's what do I always tell you folks? Never be an early adopter. Never buy the first Cybertruck. If you think the Cybertruck is cool, buy the third one. Do not buy the very first of anything. You're an idiot. You're going to spend more time because they don't know what they're doing yet. See, because with capitalism, it's the idea that gets marketed. The idea. Can we do this? I don't know. Let's get it to the marketing department. And all of a sudden, we start reading articles about how this is coming, and that creates demand. And then all of a sudden, people want it. We want this. We want that thing. And then the people who are actually trying to put it together, who don't have it perfected yet, are getting pressured now from the stockholders, and they got to release this goddamn thing. Otherwise, lest they think there's a delay for problems, though they always put out the first incarnation of whatever it is, knowing full well that it's going to be a fucking nightmare to use because they haven't figured it out yet. And they're only releasing it because the marketing department and the stockholders demand it. So that's what happened on this day in 2019 when Tesla launched the Cybertruck. A gaffe occurs during the launch. You don't say. You don't say. A gaffe occurs during the launch when its unbreakable windows shatter during a demonstration. Oh no. Remember that one? Remember that video? That was Elon Musk. He's all proud. He's standing in front of the Cybertruck. It's like on a stage, and there's people going, ooh, that looks like a Pontiac Aztek screwed a mini fridge. That is what a Cybertruck is. It's the spawn. It's a Pontiac Aztek raped a mini fridge, and now we've got the Cybertruck. Remember that though when it broke? He's like, "They're my Cybertruck." I can't do an Elon Musk impression. And you know what? Does anybody do an Elon Musk impression? Doesn't that seem like one that people who do impressions should be working on? Carvey, Dana Carvey's he's trying to work out a Musk impression on Saturday Night Live. We saw it a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. I don't know. It wasn't great. I'm like, that needs work. But anyway, Elon Musk is like, cool Cybertruck. And he like breaks them. He's like, look, the windows don't break. And he went boom, and the window broke. It was So that's how the Cybertruck was launched to the American public, and still a whole bunch of you morons. How you're not embarrassed? Be embarrassed to drive around in one. Now I understand that this is twofold, right? Because the people who are driving around in these things, they think it's cool, and that's great if that's their perspective and they're comfortable with it. You know, they're like, yeah, man, look at this, awesome! I got me a Cybertruck. You know, that's cool. They're feeling good, like a dude in a Ferrari, you know, or a divorced guy goes out and buys a convertible Mustang. You know, it makes you feel good. I get that. I wouldn't feel good in it. I would feel like, oh God, everybody knows I'm a douchebag. Everybody knows I'm a douchebag. Everybody knows that I'm a fool for buying a first generation highly sus tech car. But okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna roll with this. Look, if you're rich enough, if you're like super rich and it's a toy, that's fine. But I got a feeling that there's a lot of D-bags, a lot of $30,000 a year millionaires who are just, I gotta have a Cybertruck for my brand or whatever. Anyway, it was on this day they were released, 2019, 5 years ago. And we're just starting to see them now. All right, and one more last thing. This is the anniversary. It was 3 years ago today. 3 years ago today, the Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Do you remember this? Remember this horrible, horrible story? Waukesha, Wisconsin, a town near and dear to my heart. Anybody from the Chicago area who goes to Wisconsin to just spend their summers, which is what most of us do, you know Waukesha. Waukesha is awesome. Waukesha is just like, if you had to go, hey, we need a town that is like Norman Rockwell. You could use Waukesha, Wisconsin. It's beautiful. It's not rural. It's not in the middle of nowhere, but it also is kind of in the middle of nowhere because it's Wisconsin after all. But I mean, you got Madison, Wisconsin, you got Milwaukee, short driving distance. But anyway, it's nice. And then, they're doing their little Christmas kickoff season parade 3 years ago. And some maniac decides to just drive through the parade. I'm not going to show any video. I was looking at the video earlier today. It's really upsetting. What did we find out about that guy? Do you remember? No, well, of course you remember, because now you're thinking about it. And I imagine that every opinion that you have regarding the incident that I'm talking about from 3 years ago is steeped in some kind of political slant. How did that become political? Do you remember how political that became? Like, the right thinks this about it, and the left thinks that. And I'm like, 70% of us are like, a fucking maniac just drove through a parade. Can we address that? It was on this day in 2021, Waukesha, Wisconsin. Very sad day there. All right, let's move on. Quarter two, let's do some birthdays. These are people celebrating birthdays today. I don't know if it really is their birthday, but whatever. It's published as such, so let's move forward. Born on this day in 1694. Now, y'all know I dabble in philosophy. I love my philosophers. I had a number of philosophy classes in college and in high school. I stated yesterday that my favorite philosopher is, of course, Jesus Christ. I think Jesus Christ is like the best man who ever thought stuff. And certainly without, you don't even have to think this too hard, he's the most important and famous man to ever live. He's not. Who's more famous than Jesus? I'm not going to give you God, okay? Because Jesus was described as a man. So who's the most famous man? Jesus Christ. He's a philosopher. Again, my faith or lack thereof faith, I don't go so far as to believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of Man. I believe that he was a real historical figure who had a great impact on humanity. I think he's a philosopher, and I think if we start to look at him as a philosopher instead of some judger of, good and bad, I think that honestly his message would get through more effectively, because Jesus' message does not get through to people who are running around going, Jesus. It's just troubling. But next to Jesus, my second favorite philosopher on this day, born into the world, very controversial, very provocative dude, kinky, weird, but brilliant, Voltaire. Voltaire, born on this day in 1694. Voltaire, the inventor of the idea of the separation of church and state. The first guy at a time when the Pope was like the most important person in the world. He was a celebrity taking stages in front of lots of people going, the Pope's a fag. He was like doing that shit. Criticizing religion, criticizing the church, preaching about the separation of church and state, all men being created equal. All of the shit that I tell you that I admire and love about Thomas Jefferson comes directly from Voltaire. America comes from Voltaire. Learn about him. Born on this day in 1694. Born on this day in 1729. This one I got to mention because I told you yesterday I'm dabbling with a West Wing rewatch. I watch shows over and over again, and sometimes I just feel like I want like a political cleansing. I want to see ideological and kind and competence and all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm look, I'm not I'm not one of these people going, we're all going to die in the next 4 years. Nah, let's go. Let's roll. Let's see what happens. I'm not a Trump guy, but I also wasn't a Harris person. So let's go. West Wing is just a very idealized idea of what the presidency can be. If it is, if American democracy works the way Jefferson intended, and all the parties are willing to negotiate, right? That's a very idealistic view of what politics can be. So I've been rewatching that. And I'm mentioning this guy, born on this day in 1729, because he's a big player in the West Wing. Born on this day in 1729, Josiah Bartlett. That's right. Josiah Bartlett was an American physician and politician. He was the 6th governor of New Hampshire and a signer of the Declaration of Independence. And the reason I mention this is because, of course, the president in the West Wing, who is portrayed by Martin Sheen, is President Josiah Bartlett of New Hampshire. And this Josiah Bartlett is often referenced as his great-great-great-grandfather. Josiah Bartlett, the real Josiah Bartlett, born on this day in 1729. Born on this day in 1916. Talk a little football here for a moment. Can we talk a little football here for a moment? Born on this day in 1916, the greatest quarterback in the history of my Chicago Bears. Yeah. Our last franchise quarterback was born in 1916. Happy birthday to the great Sid Luckman. Let me tell you about Sid Luckman. Because people don't remember. In Chicago, we revere him. And of course, if you're a Bear fan, part of being a Bear fan, it's not like being a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. Part of being a Bears fan is that throughout your life growing up, you are constantly fed these historic stories from the 1920s, and this is when football was this way. And so there's a lot of that legend and mythology wrapped up in being a Bear fan. And Sid Luckman, I was going to say, who is he? I was going to say he's the Zeus but he's not, of course. George Halas is the Zeus of the Chicago Bears story. But Sid Luckman is the most important quarterback in the history of the Chicago Bears. And I will argue, as I look you all dead in the eye right now, the most important quarterback in the history of the National Football League. Whoa! How did he say that? Well, here's why. Sid Luckman is the guy who basically invented the quarterback position as we know it today. Sid Luckman was the forward pass guy. They used to pass the ball backwards and then hand it to somebody to run forward. They didn't have forward passing perfected. Guys like Amos Alonzo Stagg and Pop Warner and George Halas had dabbled with it at lower levels. But in the NFL and in college football of the time, which was much bigger than the NFL, there was no real effective or perfected forward pass because the quarterback, quarterback wasn't the quarterback that we have today. Listen to this. Here it comes. This comes from the history of the Chicago or the history of the NFL. At the time, this is at the time that Sid Luckman was drafted by George Halas of the Chicago Bears out of Columbia. He was runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. And in Columbia, he was doing crazy things like throwing the ball downfield. And George Halas saw this and he said, T formation. The invention of the T formation, which is the cornerstone of the modern NFL offense. Anyway, here, at the time Sid Luckman was drafted by the Bears from the history of the NFL, at the time, both at the college and the pro levels, offenses were a drab scrum of running the ball with only occasional passes. In what was then the predominant single wing formation, the quarterback, this is what the quarterback was before Sid Luckman. The quarterback was primarily a blocking back and rarely even touched the ball. Most passing was done by the tailback and then usually only on third down when there was large yardage. Halas and his coaches, primarily Clark Shaughnessy, invented a rather complex scheme building on the traditional T formation, but needed the right quarterback to run it properly. Sid Luckman. There you go. That's Sid Luckman's history. So we forget him and we think about Peyton Manning and, Joe Montana. And don't forget about Sid Luckman. He is the granddaddy of the modern NFL quarterback and also, sadly, the last time the Chicago Bears had what would be called a franchise quarterback. He's also a dude. Couple of fun things about Sid Luckman, born on this day in 1916. A Jew. There are people who might argue that it's between Sandy Koufax and Sid Luckman as the two greatest Jewish American athletes ever. And most people side with Sid Luckman. He was a Jew, and he also, stopped his freaking career in the NFL to go fight the Nazis because he's a Jew. Yeah, he quit. He's like, I don't want to be a quarterback anymore. I want to go kill Nazis in Germany. Sid Luckman. Although, actually, I think he didn't go to Germany. I think he stayed stateside because at that time he was a fairly significant and prominent person, and I think Hallis may have pulled some strings and they kept him stateside. But he couldn't play football. He was still, in the military. Born on this day in 1916, the great Sid Luckman. The more you know. Born on this day in 1920, another great one. Here's another great one. This guy should be up there with people like Joe. This guy should be mentioned with DiMaggio and Gehrig and Ted Williams and Mantle, but he's not. He's every bit as good as all of these guys, better than some. He's a name that I guess people in baseball know. They're like, oh, I've heard of that guy. But the average baseball fan, they'd go, yeah, I've heard of him. But I bet they don't know who he played for. And that's why he's not famous. Because Stan Musial didn't play for the New York Yankees. Well, hold on a second. I want to make sure I'm like, yeah, we know that, right? There's not like a moment at the end. No, because back then they didn't have free agency or anything. Stan Musial never played for the New York Yankees. So historically, he played for the St. Louis Cardinals in the middle of the country. Dominant, badass, like the best player in baseball. But no, he didn't play for the Red Sox or the Yankees. And that's where all the national sports writers were. And all the national sports writers only got to see Stan the Man Musial when he would come to town. And he played for the Cardinals. So he wasn't coming to town. Well, yeah, maybe to play the Dodgers. Were they the Brooklyn Dodgers still? Okay. Anyway, Stan the Man Musial, born on this day back in 1920. Forgotten baseball superstar because he didn't play for the Yankees. The only people we remember from sports before 1970 are people who played for the New York Yankees, the Brooklyn Dodgers, or the Boston Red Sox. That's it. That's it. There were other teams, and there were other good players. They're just, rando, marginalized names that we go, oh, yeah, I've heard of him. He's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, but history doesn't remember him because sports writers didn't live in Kansas or Missouri, I suppose. I guess that's born on this day in 1920. Born on this day in 1939, R. Bud Dwyer. Here's a spooky dude. You guys know R. Bud Dwyer? R. Bud Dwyer died in 1987, and we all remember how R. Bud Dwyer died. R. Bud Dwyer was the Secretary of State of Ohio, or Treasurer. No, Secretary of State of Ohio. He was the treasurer of Pennsylvania. I always get Ohio and Pennsylvania confused because they're same kind of people. Same. He was the treasurer of Pennsylvania, and he was embroiled in a scandal, a money scandal. And R. Bud Dwyer called a press conference. Assembled press came. He walked up to the podium, opened up his briefcase, put a gun in his mouth, and pulled the trigger. Killed himself right there on TV. Shocking. On this day, in what year was that? Hold on. 1939, he was born. That happened. I don't know what day that happened, but it happened in 87. The song "Hey Man, Nice Shot." That's why I say, "Hey Man, Nice Shot." That's about R. Bud Dwyer. That's what that song is about. R. Bud Dwyer, born on this day in 1939. Born on this day in 1944. One of my all-time favorites. We're going to take a moment here and we're going to talk a little bit about the great Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis is, I consider to be one of the most important comedy figures in America. Writer, director, involved with everything funny. Everything. If you're Gen X, seriously, if you're Gen X and you came of age in the 80s or maybe even the 90s and a little bits of the 70s, the comedy that was cool, the comedy that was cutting edge, the comedy that like the interesting people were into, it had all touched, or it all been touched by Harold Ramis. All of it, in some way, shape, or form. He either directed that movie, or he wrote that movie, or he starred in that movie, and in some cases, all three. Just look at Ghostbusters. Harold Ramis is a freaking genius. Harold, let me run through his filmography here, just to show you all the things that he's done. And his filmography is all over the road, because Harold Ramis was a writer, sometimes, a director, other times, and then On occasion, he even acted. So here, let's go through this. Let me show you everything that he did. Starting in 1978, he was just a kid. He wrote National Lampoon's Animal House. How's that? Now, it was a collaboration with a number of Lampoon writers, but Harold Ramis is credited as being one of the primary writers and drivers of National Lampoon's Animal House. He was just a kid. Followed that up by writing Meatballs. Meatballs, Rudy the Rabbit, come on, Bill Murray, Meatballs, Summer Camp. Then in 1980, this is where he first really emerged, and he started to do a thing that we're like, okay, so that's what he can do. In 1980, Harold Ramis wrote and directed what is widely considered to be the greatest comedy film of all time, Caddyshack. Caddyshack. 81 followed it up by writing and then co-starring in Stripes. Are you seeing any? I mean, these are all Harold fucking Ramis, is what I'm saying. Followed Stripes up with another movie that he directed. That was a little movie called National Lampoon's Vacation. Hey, did that become a hit? I don't know if that was a comedy hit or not. Following that, he wrote a movie, didn't want to direct it. He's like, I'm going to write this thing. And he turned to his friend, Ivan Reitman. He said, you should direct this. And Ivan's like, are you going to be in it? And he's like, yeah, I want to be in it. Ghostbusters. Harold Ramis, Ghostbusters. Check out that run right there. National Lampoon's Animal House, Meatballs, Caddyshack, Stripe, Vacation, Ghostbusters. Jesus, he's only been doing it for 5 years at this point. For 5 years at this point. And Harold Ramis is just, I got another funny idea. Let's write it down, guys. Followed up Ghostbusters with Back to School. Rodney Dangerfield. He directed, or he wrote Back to School. Yeah. Club Paradise, he wrote and directed. Robin Williams, now not a big hit, but I enjoyed Club Paradise. I like the film Club Paradise, Robin Williams. Followed that up with Ghostbusters 2 as a writer, then Ghostbusters 2 as a writer, then writer, director, and producer. My favorite thing that Harold Ramis has ever done. Of all those movies that I already mentioned to you, and you're going, wait, there's a more favored thing in the Harold Ramis library than Stripes, Animal House, Vacation, Ghostbusters. Yes. It's called Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day. Harold Ramis wrote, directed, produced. It's why every February 2nd in Chicago isn't Groundhog Day, it's Harold Ramis Day. It is. It's an actual designation in Chicago, Harold Ramis Day. Let's see. Now we'll just run through some other things. He did Multiplicity with Michael Keaton, directed that. Bedazzled, analyzed this, analyzed that. Okay, big hits, man. The guy just, Harold Ramis. Born on this day, 1944. He's an absolute killer. And one of my favorite things, most touching things, is my son desperately wants to go to the Harold Ramis Film School in Chicago. He's like, Dad, when I graduate, he's like, I want to go to the Harold Ramis Film School. What is the Harold Ramis Film School? There are a lot of film schools. It's the only film school in the world that exclusively teaches you how to write and direct and produce comedy films. Okay? How cool is that? Comedy always gets the short shrift in filmmaking. And yet, I would tell you that comedy is harder than anything else because it's dependent on a hoped-for reaction, that this is going to be funny. Whereas a drama, you're requesting that you can just hold their attention with the story. Comedy has more difficult things in order to work. The Harold Ramis School of Comedy attached to the Second City in Chicago. Hopefully that dream will come true for my kid. Let's see, another birthday. Oh, here's a big one. Those of you who know about my Hollywood clone factory theory, all right, I'll tell you very quickly. I believe that sometime after World War II that some cloning was done by the Nazis, and the Nazi scientists in charge of that were brought over to Hollywood and basically set up somewhere there in the valley, in the Hollywood Hills, in the mountains, like a NORAD thing, like they carved into, actually, I'll be honest with you, this is what I've heard. The big holiday sign, the Hollywood sign? It's under that. Inside that hill is where the Hollywood Clone Factory is. The Hollywood Clone Factory since the 1950s has been creating redundant Hollywood stars, people who are the same thing. It's like, oh, we got another one of those. Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill is a great modern example of, we got two of those. They're kind of the same thing. One's bigger. Oh, I get it. One's bigger. There you go. That's the difference. So the Hollywood Clone Factory has been cranking out clones for years and years and years. Every generation of film goer sees the exact same type of actor playing the exact same type of role, whether it's Jimmy Stewart to now we've got Tom Hanks. I mean, anyway, my point is this. I don't want to go on. I don't want to rehash the whole Hollywood Clone Factory thing, but you know that I believe it's a thing. Today, we are celebrating a birthday of one of the most successful Hollywood clone lines of all time. Born on this day in 1945, or should we say cloned on this day in 1945, Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn. The birthdays are all bullshit with the Clone Factory. They're all just post-dated. They're like, they crank the things out like in their 20s. Like clones, there are no baby clones. They're actually produced. So, and it's all their backgrounds are fabricated with the celebrities. And if you grew up with a celebrity and you're like, Pugs, that's not true. I grew up with Goldie Hawn. I'll call you a part of the problem. You're in the system. You're one of them. Goldie Hawn's a clone. She's one of the most successful clones that Hollywood has ever produced. The Goldie Hawn, I'll tell you the story about the Goldie Hawn clone line, okay? Back around the late 60s, they needed something. They were Hollywood's new cinema was sort of changing the way sexuality was presented to the American public. It had always been more suggestive, but very short of the line. You know, Elizabeth Taylor wearing a low-cut dress was considered racy, but then we started getting mini skirts and like cute little sexy things, and guys started watching TV for hot chicks. And so Hollywood knew that they needed to sort of ease their way into this. There hadn't yet been, I mean, sure, the big screen had their Anne Margarets and their what the hell is my phone? Hold on. Telemarketer. I don't think so. Where was I? Hollywood had their Anne Margarets and their the film world had their Anne Margarets and their Raquel Welches and all of that, and Marilyn Monroe certainly in the bombshell era of Hollywood clone lines that we saw, very successful. But they wanted to dial that back a little. They wanted to make it a little bit girl next door, but still like, oh my God, she's so hot, right? That's what they were going for. So Hollywood released two models of this clone line. One was, of course, our birthday girl, the Goldie Hawn. The other one was a discontinued clone line known as the Karen Valentine, okay? Well, some of you may know Karen Valentine. She was discontinued. She was a darker version, dark hair, short, a little bit less bangable, I guess, than Goldie Hawn, but they fit the mold of the cute kind of girl next door that was more sexy than she knew. So that started the Goldie Hawn line. I mean, we saw the Goldie Hawn line dominate Hollywood female roles in Hollywood through the 1980s. And then, of course, Goldie got crow's feet. That's a problem with the clones. They age very similarly to humans. It's, you know, it was a breakthrough that the Nazis did, and we thought it was cool at the time. Now we're seeing the drawbacks of it. But so she started to get crow's feet, Goldie Hawn, in the 1980s, and that's when they updated the line and gave the world the Meg Ryans. That's right. So we went from the Goldie Hawn to the Meg Ryan. Interestingly enough, when Meg Ryan started to get crow's feet, they went to the Goldie Hawn line again and reintroduced her, except this time they called her Kate Hudson. That's right. Then there was craziness. Then the pop girl, then the young pop girl thing came in. They discontinued this line of Meg Ryan and all of that. It's back in a lesser form. We now call it the Sydney Sweeney, but that is the Goldie Hawn Hollywood clone line. Thank you. Goldie Hawn, born on this day, or, according to her story, wink, wink, born on this day in 1945. Born on this day in 1965. How about... How would one describe? How would one pronounce? Like, what is the actual... I don't think there's a proper way to pronounce this in the human vocal range. Born on this day in 65, Bjork, right? Aren't you supposed to pronounce her name like something like that? Like it's Icelandic. How do you B-J? Here's how you spell. Here's how you spell it. B-J, and then a letter I've never seen before. I don't know what that letter is. I don't know what the letter is. There are some kids, they're going around. They got names that are hard to find at the Six Flags gift shop because who's got a tiny little license plate that says, Thai bad? Nobody, right? Imagine how tough that was for young when she was going to Six Flags over Reykjavik. Although I guess in Iceland, maybe there were little license plates with the name on it. Bjork, born on this day in 1965. Born on this day in 1966. One of our local superstars here. And I was thinking about this today, and this is weird. Happy birthday, Troy Aikman. Born on this day in 1966. Good old number 8, Troy Aikman. What a dignified dude. I just think he always seems so dignified. Like whenever I see him on TV, he's so calm. He's so cool. Like his speaking and the way he converses and relates with people in those games, he's just very quarterbacky. Like you can see how that guy would be a quarterback. He doesn't seem to get overexcited. He doesn't seem like, he's got a very sort of even keel. I like Troy boy. Here's something interesting that I realized about Troy Aikman. Never met him. Never even been in the room with him. Now, you might think that's weird, but I worked in Dallas media for a long time, and I worked for the Cowboys. I hosted draft parties. I've met Roger Staubach multiple times, and what a gentleman he is. I hung out with Tony Romo, I played video. No, I didn't play video games, but I watched Tony Romo play video games against Drew Henson in Tony's apartment back in 2000 and whatever it was. So I know these guys. So it's just weird that I've never crossed paths with Troy Aikman. I've never seen him anywhere. And that's probably a testament to him. He's better than me. Troy Aikman would never go to a thing that I might show up at. Happy birthday, Troy Aikman. You're the greatest. Born on this day in 1966. Born on this day in 1969. I just called Troy Aikman the greatest. I'm going to tell you about another guy here who, sorry, we've got people here at the studio. I don't know how loud it is, but sometimes this happens here at the e-gallery. Let's see. I just called Troy Aikman the greatest. This one might be the greatest for me, and it's a sliding scale. And it's all about impact. These athletes, they come along, and you're like, that's my favorite. He's the greatest. This is a kid. I remember seeing him rise up. I remember watching his first at bat. It was probably covered on SportsCenter. It was a big deal. I was a massive baseball fan. And then to see this kid just be everything they said he would be, which is such a rarity in sports. Sports puts a lot of hype behind, highly touted athletes. And most of the time, none of that bears out to be true. It did in this case. And I don't know if I had to make a list that I would put him at number 1 of all time. But here's what I do know. If I was starting a team and I had the first pick, he would be my first pick for a whole number of reasons. The fact that defensively and offensively, he is probably top 5 in history at both, just as an all-around player, a 5-tool athlete. Secondly, incredible leader. Incredible leader. Everybody fucking listen to this kid from the time he stepped foot on this team. So yeah, I would put, if I had to pick, Pugs, you got the first pick of all the baseball players ever. Who do you want to start your team? I'm going with our birthday boy, born on this day in 1969, Ken Griffey Jr. Griff popularized the backwards hat. That was Griff. He was doing that first. Before that, it was just catchers who were allowed to wear their hats backwards because that's how the catcher helmet. But then Ken Griffey started taking batting practice every day and wearing his hat backwards, and it became a thing. And then all the kids started wearing their hats backwards. Ken Griffey. He's awesome. I love him. 1969, born on this day. Born on this day in 1971, Michael Strahan. I don't know. Is he okay? He's a giant, so I guess Cowboy fans don't like him, but he seems nice, right? He seems friendly. I guess he was good. What do you mean you guess? I'm like, no, he's good. But is Michael Strahan? Michael Strahan hasn't played football in a number of years, and he's still a massive star. He is a much bigger star now than he was when he played football. He's a much bigger star as a national television presence for ABC News, ABC Good Morning America. Michael Strahan. He went to space. They put Michael Strahan in a Bezos rocket and put him in space. He's super famous. My question is, based on how he played the game, and yeah, I know he's a Hall of Famer and he's got some Super Bowl rings with the Giants, Does he deserve all of that? Like, is there anybody, like, is there a guy who played defensive end for the Cleveland Browns who, like, should be on TV, but the only reason that Michael Strahan is because, once again, he was a New York Giant. He was a New York Giant. He played for the Giants. I'm an executive at ABC TV. My favorite team's the Giants. Michael, come on in. And I'm like, you know, he's good on TV. He's fine. He seems like a decent sort. But again, I'm like, I don't remember Michael Strahan being like the best and the scariest. Michael Strahan to me was never Khalil Mack, you know, his first go round with the Raiders, or even quite frankly now. He's never Micah. Remember Micah last year? I just never worried about Michael Strahan to that degree. And now I see him like being like, he's like super famous. He must have been the greatest at his position ever. And I'm like, no, he was very good at his position. Very good. Very good. But I just, you know. Anyway, happy birthday, Michael Strahan, born on this day in 1971. Here's another guy. Happy birthday to this dude. This dude born in 1975. He's one of me and my son's favorite people. Oh, geez. This guy is so funny. Yeah, I say there's a number of performers in this world. Bill Murray's one. Chris Elliott used to be able to do this to me. Bill Hader is like this. Jason Sudeikis to a degree. John Belushi back in the day. These are actors, comedic actors, who simply being in the scene makes you start to laugh, right? Like if Bill Murray slides into a scene, all I got to do is look at him. He doesn't have to say anything, but there's going to be a look on his face that is going to make me start to go. Chris Elliott on the old Letterman show was like that too. Well, this guy's definitely like that. Me and my 15-year-old son think that this might be the funniest comedic actor working today, and we don't understand why he's not bigger. Happy birthday to the amazing, the incredibly funny, and if you don't know him, you're about to, Jimmy Simpson. Jimmy Simpson. You guys, now I first discovered Jimmy Simpson years ago. Jimmy Simpson started as a writer for the David Letterman show, Late Night with David Letterman, whatever it was called when he was on CNN or CBS. Jimmy Simpson played the character on Letterman of Lyle the intern. Do you guys remember Lyle the intern? Maybe not. Maybe you didn't watch it. But the premise of Lyle the intern was that he was an intern for David Letterman's show who didn't know the boundaries, who just was way too comfortable with hanging out with Dave and show and all of that. So here's an example. This is Jimmy. It's his birthday. Jimmy Simpson. This is Jimmy. This is how the world first came to know Jimmy Simpson on the David Letterman show. Enjoy.
Earlier, the phone rang, and it turns out it was a wrong number. I'm sorry. Hi, how are you? Can I help you with something?
How you doing, man?
Good. I'm fine.
I just want to let you know that I'm digging your whole vibe you got going over here, man.
Great.
I love what you got going. I'm loving your scene, the whole scene, man. I love it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
That's great. I don't know your name. Exactly.
Lyle the intern.
Oh, Lyle, how you doing? Oh, Lyle the intern.
Yeah, people call me Lyle.
And,
easy way to remember it, just think Lyle the intern.
Okay. And are you a college kid? Where'd you go to school?
School of Life.
Right. I couldn't be happier that you're part of the intern program, Lyle, but, we're right in the middle of a show.
That's cool, man. Relax. Don't want to squeeze your yam bags or nothing. But I was wondering.
Wondering what?
Well, you, me, tonight, we go to McGee's Pub. You are my wingman.
I don't know what that means.
Well, you got me, Roscoe. Okay, you bring him in. Lyle shoots him down. Shunk. We meet some hot chicks. We take them out. We get some shrimp scampi. We do some dancing. We get some more drinks. Then we go back to your house for some dancing in the dark.
No, we're not.
Your house.
As much fun as that sounds, Lyle, we're not going back to my house.
Hey, it's cool, Buttercup. Just.
All right, there you go. That's Lyle the intern. That's how we first came to know Jimmy Simpkins, but Jimmy Simpson, excuse me. But this is how we truly love him. He is, of course, one of the McPoyles, the lead McPoyle on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And when I say he's, in my son, in my opinion, the funniest comedic actor working today. I'm going to show you why. He plays is he Liam? Is he Liam McPoyle? The McPoyles are characters on a family on the television show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I claim to be the funniest television show in the history of TV, heading into its 19th season. It's ridiculous how funny it is and how under the radar and how nobody sees it. 19 seasons. But those of us who know and those of us who have seen it, we're like, oh, we got the special. We got the special sauce here. Watch it. If you've never seen it, you always think you're not. Anyway, the McPoyles are a family who live in Philadelphia. They live near the bar, and they are inbred and generationally. They're basically like the Cletus. You know Cletus from The Simpsons? That's basically it. They're the Cletus family or the Cletus people from The Simpsons come to life. This is, of course, Jimmy Simpkins, the funny Jimmy Simpkins on his birthday, as Liam McPoyle, the lead McPoyle. Here you go from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Let's watch this for a little bit and laugh.
We're gonna get this place hot and clammy. Just like the McBoys like it. The whole family's here.
How many? What is that a jar of? What is that a jar of, dude? What is that? Whoa, Jesus!
Timon.
We cannot have the McPoyle brothers in here creeping everybody out, bro. They bang each other. Margaret, what are you doing here? Is that like a sexual thing? All right, let's do this.
She's still expecting a call.
That's not gonna happen, so just move past it, all right?
You will call her!
How many can there possibly be? Oh, good to see her again. Good. She doesn't know what I'm saying, right? Okay. What is that, a fight? Where's your brother, dude?
We just stepped out of the shower. He'll be down in a minute.
All right, listen, you guys can't go... Did you just say we?
Hey, Charlie.
Hello, Ryan.
You think I'm bluffing?
You think I'm bluffing? I think you're bluffing. Then bluff this. Ryan, stab somebody.
All right. Happy birthday, Jimmy Simpson. So funny. I need him to be a movie star. He kills me and my 15-year-old. We absolutely love him. Happy birthday. Born on this day in 1975, the great Jimmy Simpson. All right, let's move now into quarter three. These are the deads, people who have died on this day. Let's decide where'd they go, heaven or hell. And don't forget, folks, right around the corner, we'll get into all the big hot news stories. Oh, we got more shit breaking. Oh, God, okay. All right, let's go. Let's talk about some people who died, and let's determine whether or not they went to heaven or hell. Dead on this day in 1984, Ben Wilson. Ben Wilson. Do people know who Ben Wilson is? Benji. Maybe you saw the ESPN 30 for 30 on Benji. Ben Wilson is a high school basketball player who was murdered in his senior year. He was the #1 ranked high school basketball player in the nation, and somebody who everybody thought was. They didn't jump straight from high school to the pros back then. That was still a couple of years off. But if they did, Ben Wilson would have been one of those guys. Ben Wilson played for Simeon on the south side of Chicago. I saw him play once, the turkey tournament. And I remember I didn't know, obviously, who he was other than the fact that we were there and the team from Simeon was there and the team from King was there. Those were the two best high school basketball teams on the south side. Oh, hell, in the States, maybe in the nation at the time. And I remember we were all like, that's Ben Wilson. That dude's supposed to be the greatest basketball player in history. You know, it was that kind of vibe. Ben Wilson was shot and killed in an absolutely senseless incident. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that your emotional maturity is something that everyone grapples with. And it's hard not to just fly off the handle, lose your shit. I mean, look at road ragers, right? But being volatile, being emotionally volatile is incredibly dangerous. And it doesn't define you. Somebody who is being volatile in the moment because they just fucking lost their shit, that shouldn't define you. We're all people. We all process our emotions differently. So why am I talking about this? Because I believe that it was Ben Wilson's emotional immaturity that led to his death. Ben Wilson had a girlfriend. He was in a fight with his girlfriend. They were arguing. They were walking down the street. They were walking down Vincennes on the south side of Chicago. They're walking down Vincennes just outside of Simeon High School. He's trailing after her. baby, come on, what's going on, baby? Come on. And she's like, don't you talk to me, Ben Wilson. Don't you talk to me. You know, it's that kind of thing. She walks into a little sandwich shop there, and he follows her. Coming out of the sandwich shop as she's going in are these two dudes, bangers, serious Southside bangers, who were there. They were actually from Harvey, which is another suburb. They were there on the campus of Simeon to kill another student who had robbed their cousin earlier in the day. So they were there. These two guys from Harvey, they're there. They're there to whack some dude who stole money, $10 from their cousin. Now, in the process of them standing around waiting to whack this dude, they find out that they don't need to do it. So they go and they grab a sandwich, and they're in this like little sandwich shop, and they're eating, and in comes Ben Wilson and his angry girlfriend. Ben Wilson's girlfriend storms in. Ben Wilson storms in behind him. These two dudes, these two bangers, these two killers are on their way out. And guess what happens with dudes? Boom, shoulders hit. You know that thing? Shoulder. You better watch where you're going. You know that whole thing. So this happens on the sidewalk right out in front of this place. You better watch where you're going. Ben Wilson was an athlete. Ben Wilson was a big dude. Ben Wilson, I think, was 6'9". And again, the #1 ranked high school basketball player in the country. He's in the middle of this furious, emotional breakdown with his girlfriend. He ain't thinking straight. We've all been there. And now he's got some stranger going, watch where you're going. This is where that moment comes. This is where that volatility becomes deadly to you, that your own emotional instability becomes the reason that you don't get to bounce your grandchild on your knee. Ben Wilson in that moment turned and with his 6'9" started menacingly walking towards these two killers, these two bangers, challenging them. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? And that's when the guy pulled out the .22 and just popped two in Ben Wilson. Ben Wilson dead, laying there on the sidewalk. The #1 high school basketball player in the country, considered to be an absolute can't-miss superstar in the NBA, dead. Because in the midst of a fight with his girlfriend, the world introduced itself to him. That's why we all have to be emotionally stable. We all have to work on this. And we don't. You know me, I'm a big advocate for therapy and fucking trying to figure out all this stuff. Now me, you see emotional instability in me every day when I do shit like this. See, that's a venting. That's a venting for me. I'm controlling that. That's not emotionally instability. That's performative emotional venting. But I mean, I still lose my shit. I mean, but it's a hard thing. I am so emotionally immature and always have been. I react in the moment. And so, yeah, I mean, I struggle with that all the time. Like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like if I'm sitting in a meeting with somebody and somebody starts to be patronizing to me, I'm the type of person who cannot control my emotions enough to not go, you think you're pretty smart, don't you? Fuck up. Let's go. Let's talk. What do you want? I mean, I get fucking aggressive, and I've needed over the years. I don't like to be intimidated by anybody. And that's the emotional instability. I don't know how to process that. I don't know when I start to feel intimidated, my emotions start going, I don't know how to process that. I mean, I do now to a degree. It's a work in progress. But that's why Ben Wilson, who I'm putting in heaven, died on this day. Watch where you're going. Ben Wilson is still alive today if watch where you're going is responded to with, hey, sorry, man. And then just go back to your problems with your girlfriend. That dude would not have, I mean, he was a killer. He was there to kill people. But it was because Ben Wilson stopped and turned and was like, yeah, what you gonna do about it? I mean, street law dictates, especially on the south side of Chicago back in the 80s. Street law dictates that if somebody says, what you gonna do about it, you do something about it, because they're not fucking posers. They are killers in that area. They're not afraid of jail. They're not just going to talk. They're not saying, I'm going to fucking knock you out. They're not just speaking that way, the way suburban kids do. No, they will knock you out. They don't care. Think they're afraid of going to jail? They'll see their dad. They don't care. So recognize that the world is out there, and our emotional instability should not lead us into a situation where the world has its way with us. Ben Wilson, I'm putting him in heaven. There we go. Dead on this day in 1984. Dead on this day in 1993. Bill Bixby. Putting him in heaven too. I like Bill Bixby. Dead on this day, and Bill Bixby was, of course, courtship of Eddie's father. People, let me tell you about my best friend. Hulk, right? He was the Pussy Hulk. Back before we could have the same actor play the Dr. Banner and Hulk, you had to have two different people. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, I guess that's wrong. Bill Bixby wasn't the Hulk in those 1970s TV shows. Lou Ferrigno was the Hulk. Bill Bixby played Banner. We should never say that Bill Bixby played the Hulk, because he wasn't the Hulk. He was Bruce Banner. All right, there you go. Where are we putting? We're gonna put Bixby in heaven. He died of cancer. I liked him when he died. I was young and I was sad because of it, because of the Hulk and because of the courtship of Eddie's father. So there you go. Ben Wilson and Bill Bixby both go to heaven. Both dead on this day. Dead on this day in 2017. David Cassidy. I guess I kind of forgot about this. David Cassidy. David Cassidy was, of course, Keith Partridge from the Partridge Family. I don't really have much of a take on him. I mean, I knew Danny really well. I worked with Danny Bonaducci, but I don't think I ever met David Cassidy. And David Cassidy and Danny Bonaducci were really good friends. And I think David Cassidy was up at the studio all the time. I never met him, never saw him. Donny Osmond, saw Donny Osmond all the time. Not David Cassidy. Where do we put David Cassidy? Where does David Cassidy go? I'm going to have to put David Cassidy in hell. I'm going to have to do it. Here's why. It's nothing personal. It's just my own jealousy. David Cassidy was like a teen idol. Like his whole life, everything was easy. He came from a famous family. He had a little brother, Sean Cassidy, who was also famous. His mom was Shirley Jones. His dad was Jack Cassidy. And did you see him? I mean, my God, he had the whole world at his footsteps his entire life. So you know what? I'm going to bash David Cassidy to hell. I don't feel all that bad about it. All right, there you go. That's going to do it. Those are the first three segments. First three quarters of today's show. Now it's time for us to get into the hot topics, current events, and everything that's happening today. Once again, I'd like to remind you that this show runs on your support. So if you in any way, shape, or form would like to help us continue this kind of talk radio, non-political, that's just normal people talk radio. Let's just talk for normal people. You can drop a little tip. We'll do it in Venmo or the Cash App. You can see it scrolling right down there below. The big tipper of today's show will be rewarded with the title of the executive producer of tomorrow's show. So today we give that honor to Tracy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our executive producer. If you want to be tomorrow's executive producer, all you got to do is be the biggest tipper of the day. And quite frankly, at this point, all you got to be is the tipper of the day because, it's a little slow around here, but that's okay. All right. Thank you so much, Tracy. Also, Peter, I saw that Peter dropped something. I don't mean to the people who don't win produce or executive day, but thank you, Peter. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm just feeling a little bit, got to stretch out here. Here we go. Big breaking news. Actually, big breaking news has been happening since I've been doing the first three quarters. So let me just quickly take a look at any written reports, because I could just go off the top of my head off of what I've been seeing peripherally on the TV. But yeah, here it is. Okay, so here's the big breaking news. Matt Gaetz is out, gone. Matt Gaetz is gone. Now, just before I signed on, Matt Gaetz, former congressman from Florida, he resigned after he was nominated for the attorney general. Matt Gaetz resigned his place in Congress. That was done ostensibly because there was an investigation into Matt Gaetz's behavior, his sexual proclivities and whatnot. There was an investigation being done by the House Ethics Committee into the way he comports himself. And by resigning from Congress after being nominated to the Attorney General's position, Matt Gaetz, in effect, ended the investigation. The House Ethics Committee no longer has any sway or any interest in investigating somebody who's not a member of the House. So that went away. That was a week ago, maybe. I don't know. How long has it been since he was nominated? Probably about a week, in the last week. From the very beginning, it's been tough sledding. Matt Gaetz, I'll tell you just flat out, there is absolutely no way in hell that Matt Gaetz should ever be allowed anywhere near the Department of Justice other than in the role of a defendant. Matt Gaetz if you've got a problem with the department, please, let me just talk to some of you. if you have a problem with the United States Department of Justice and the way that they've maybe carried out investigations over the last few years, I'm not going to tell you you're crazy. I'm going to tell you those are very real concerns, and you have every right to feel that way. And I absolutely will support you when I say that I believe that there needs to be some form, no, not some form, wide sweeping reform of the United States justice system in the way that we run it. Okay? So we can all agree on that, right? Matt Gaetz is not the answer. You're not a serious person. If you and I sit here and agree that it needs to be reformed and that we need to do, first of all, I suppose we have to agree that there is a need for a Department of Justice at the governmental level, which I fear there may not be a unanimous vote there. I think that there's some of you that think, nah, we don't need it. I'm like, okay, so then we disassemble the Supreme Court as well. What are we doing? Everything and everything down? So I believe there's a need for a system of justice shepherded by the government, or at least bolstered by the government to do their job. And I believe that there is a bureaucratic nightmare occurring throughout every department in the modern United States government. The Department of Justice is probably where we need to start, because I believe the Department of Justice is the most important department in the United States. Why? Well, because it concerns all of us every single day. Every single day. I don't know, I don't know if the Health and Human Services Department has the ability to completely ruin my life. Maybe the IRS does. We can get rid of the IRS. That's good. I think we should get rid of the IRS, but not the Department of Justice. So look, you're not a serious person if you thought that Matt Gaetz was somebody who any normal, sane individual would ever hire as the Attorney General. He's not. He's not a good person. That's just the bottom line of it, you guys. I don't care that he likes your dude. I don't care that he's been a good, loyal servant to the guy that you love, Trump. That's fine. That's cool. But come on, people. We got 4 years of this. You know that Matt Gaetz is a piece of shit. You know this. He's a bad guy. You can't look at him and go, holy fuck, he's straight out of Hollywood. If Hollywood needed to cast a dude to play the asshole, so he was never going to be the Attorney General. He's a scumbag. He's a rich, highly connected, silver spoon, private school, Florida political heir. That's what he is. He's not the first Gaetz to be a politician in Florida. He was bred to be a politician from the time he was 2 years old. And you people think that guy should be in charge of the justice system? A career politician. Not somebody with a law enforcement background, not somebody with maybe a long and storied career in the law, maybe a former judge, a diplomat who has some sort of understanding of social, domestic, and judicial issues. No, you went with Matt Gaetz, the guy who pays 17-year-olds on Venmo, which we now know is probably true, because here's what happened. Just before we signed on today, I wasn't going to do the Matt Gaetz story, right? I touched on it yesterday. I don't want to do this stuff. I don't want to get bogged down in this endless partisan stuff. But you do have to be you. Well, we do have to talk about, who's being named to these important cabinet positions. So just before we signed on today, I saw breaking news on CNN, and it was a story that they were floating. Apparently, this is how I learned about it. CNN contacted Matt Gaetz. They were about to go live with a story in the 12 p.m. hour, right as we were signing on. CNN, in the 12 p.m. hour block of news, was going to do a new story on Matt Gaetz. They called Matt Gaetz at 11:30 this morning, and they got him, and they said, here's the story we're running in a half hour. Do you have a comment? And Matt Gaetz said, yes, my comment is this. I am withdrawing as a candidate for the Attorney General. So Matt Gaetz is gone. Okay, fine. He wasn't going to get confirmed anyway, and it was going to be ugly, and it was going to be like infighting in the MAGA conservative Republican. It was just going to be nuts. But apparently, let's see. Okay, here. Well, now I will read. This is how I came to understand it. He's out, but let's see what the details. Ethics Committee told of second sexual encounter between Matt Gaetz and a 17-year-old at a party. Okay, so I guess this is the new story. This is another underage girl. The woman who says she had sex when she was a minor with Rep. Matt Gaetz told the House Ethics Committee she had 2 sexual encounters with him at one party in 2017. Okay, so it's one woman. Let's get this straight. So it's one woman, she's 17. So he's like in his 30s. He's like he's a 17-year-old, and he's partying with 17-year-olds. That's the person that you, and by the way, don't act like this is all a lie. It's not all a lie. He has never denied being at these parties with these people. He says he knows these people and has socialized with these people. These people have all been named, and in the case of this one, brought in front of the ethics committee. Nobody is saying that Matt Gaetz wasn't partying with these people. What he's saying is, I never fucked an underage girl. That's what he's saying. So stop it. Stop defending him. This is not a worthy individual of the... And look, I know... You can probably look me in the eye and you can say, Pugs, there have been absolutely worse people than him. And you know what? You're right. But just because there's been worse people than him doesn't mean that in this moment, when we see a bad person, we don't put an end to it. I'm not going to argue with you. J. Edgar Hoover should have been taken out bat and shot in 1960. But we didn't. We allowed him to run our intelligence agencies and our Justice Department. I mean, you think that he was just FBI? The power that Hoover had was insane. And he was a madman, an absolute madman. So yes, we have had people in the past much worse than Matt Gaetz. But now we have the ability to, have Venmo paper trails and actual testimony of people and text messages. It's a modern time. We now have actual proof. So let's no longer allow the bad ones to get the good seats simply because we had Hoover for 50 years. Okay? Please. We're trying to be better. The woman, who is 17 years old at the time, testified that the second sexual encounter, which has not previously been reported, included another adult woman. He had a threesome. We're done. We're going out. You know what? I'm done with this story. There you go. That's all you need to know. Matt Gaetz is out. Okay, what do we got? So we got some other, I don't want to go through all the other cabinet pick nonsense, but I did select a number of headlines from newspapers around the country. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't like it, but you guys got to know what's going on. So here we go. Headlines from around the country concerning the cabinet conversation. Police records reveal graphic details about sex allegations against Hegseth. LA Times. I remember saying no a lot, Hegseth accuser says. Washington Post. Federal inquiry traced payments from Gaetz' phone to women. New York Times. Ethics panel won't release the Gaetz report. That's from the AP, but that was yesterday. That's old news. GOP warns hearings on Gaetz will be Kavanaugh on steroids. Washington Post. No, they won't, because he pulled out. Former babysitter to RFK Jr.'s kids speaks about sex assault. New York Times. There you go. So those are just the headlines concerning, and I didn't even get to, we're going to talk about Linda McMahon and the problem that we're having there. All right, so there you go. Politics. God, I hate them. Let's talk about something good. Let's talk about something amazing, in fact. Let's talk about something that I read last night on the Twitter box, and then immediately started, is this real? I'm clicking on the source. I'm like, is this a real source? Yeah, it looks like a real source. And then I'm Googling, I'm cross-referencing. I'm trying to figure out, is this real or is this some asshole on Twitter just making stuff up? It appears to be real. And I tell you, I live in Texas. Yeah, I love this place. My son is here. I got a son in the ground here. Lived here since 2021. Born and raised in the Midwest. Chicago's my heart, my home. South Side is where I come from. But this is where I choose to be, and this is where I want to be here in Texas. Now, despite all of that, I'm very critical of old Wheels of Steel, as I call him, Greg Abbott. I think that he has been as recklessly divisive as anybody else that I can point to as one of the problems over the past 10 years or so. And I could probably name about 50 people of that caliber, of which Greg Abbott would certainly be in there. So I'm not a fan, if you will. But holy shit, man. If this goes through while he's governor, it was announced last night that the University of Texas system, all University of Texas schools, college schools, higher education, University of Texas, UT Austin, that kind of stuff. University of Texas plans to provide free tuition for students from families earning $100,000 or less. What? What kind of social left-wing libtard communist adjacent bullshit is going on with Texas? And can I just say, bravo. Oh man, is that amazing. You know why? Because Texas is a state that can afford to do this. There are a lot of states that can't afford to do this. So Texas, they have the ability, we're a monster state. We have the ability to make the ongoing education and chances at an exceptional life, we have the ability to make that easier to attain for Texans. And that's exactly what this does. And this is not the kind of thing that I ever think a Greg Abbott-led Texas administration would be considering. This is incredible. Now, let's read this together. Let's try and figure this out. Because I got to tell you, $100,000, that's pretty high. Like, that's pretty high. I love it. They could have gotten away with 50. They could have said, if you make less than 50, it's all the way up to $100,000. In Texas, this is the kind of bullshit you expect from California. This is what Texas is doing. Bravo. Now, it may not go there. It's not a done deal. Well, let's see a little bit about this. Oh, wait, is this an actual news story about it? Hold on, let me see. See what we got here. Otherwise, I was just going to read you the. Maybe it's not a news story. Come on, give it to me. Where's the news? It's going to be a pop-up, isn't it? No. All right, we don't need CBS Dallas to tell us this. Dateline Austin, the University of Texas system has a plan to provide tuition-free education at all 9 institutions for undergraduate students from families earning $100,000 or less. Now this is always the hitch with these things. Beginning in 2030, we're going to start it in 2030, and we're going to do it. We're going to make it free, but it's going to be in 2030. It's always like that. It's always like that. No, next year is when this kicks in. So if you're a senior in high school right now and you are worried, next year, that's a level of compassion and thoughtfulness on the part of the Texas school or Texas university system that I just had never anticipated. Again, we don't know if this will go through. Announced Wednesday. The Board of Regents plan includes an immediate infusion of $35 million directly to campuses from endowments and would direct more investments to support financial aid. According to the UT system, 56% of all UT students receive some form of financial aid. The Regents are not only addressing immediate needs to our current students, but they are taking the long view, ensuring that future generations, this is not something Texas politicians have done since, I don't know, a round of applause. They are taking the long view on higher education as opposed to the short view, which is, let's see how much debt we can build up for them before we send them out into the world. It's incredible. I don't believe this is real. I don't believe this is going to happen, but holy shit. The Regents are not only addressing immediate needs of our current students, but they are taking the long view, ensuring that future generations will continue to benefit from this remarkable program. UT Systems Chancellor James B. Milliken said, boy, if this is real, we're going to have a James B. Milliken University or a James B. Milliken Airport or something. If this is real, years from now, this dude is going to be historically held up as the guy who gave free college to Texans. Let's see. Across UT institutions, enrollment is growing and student debt is declining, indicating success in both access and affordability. That's a rare trend in American higher education. I'm proud of the UT system, and I'm proud that we are in a position to be the leader there. According to the UT system, the average UT student debt has steadily declined over the past 4 years and is on average 10% lower than the public four-year institutions in the state. All right, so let me see how this happens. It doesn't say the Board of Regents will vote on the tuition plan today. Okay, did it go through? Do we know what it is? Do we think? Chat room, what are you guys thinking? What do you guys think about this commie bullshit coming to Texas? Did this come with them California libtards that all showed up in Austin about 5 years ago after Joe Rogan? Is that what this is? Is that what's going on here? Because holy shit, this is some thoughtful policy. Thoughtful policy that is gonna widely benefit minorities. I mean, this isn't just like a thoughtful policy for the put upon white suburban kid. No, this is crazy. This is crazy thoughtful and good and ecumenical and all of those things that you want these kinds of things to be about. Frank Smith says, does this apply to UT Arlington and UT Dallas or just Austin? It applies to the entire University of Texas system. If you're in Houston and you want to go to UT Sugarland, I don't even know if that's a thing. Might be. You can. Yeah, Frank. It's all UT schools. Okay, so that's not Texas A&M. It's not Texas Tech. But my goodness, this is incredible. Mikey D says, yes, that free tuition sounds great. I mean, this is incredible. I get a lot of mileage out of making fun of my home here in Texas. And, oh, sure, that's what we're going to do. We're going to send a bunch of National Guard to surround a Walmart on the border. Is that what we're going to do? Remember when Abbott, there was an army training thing in North Texas that was going on, and the internet started saying Obama's gonna take over Texas, and our idiot, they're not idiots, they know it's not true, but they know you're idiots, and you guys were all like, they're gonna do it and nobody's doing anything. So that forces Abbott to go, fuck, these morons actually think this is happening. So then they mobilized Texas National Guard. Remember that? That's who this state is to me. Again, I love this state, but what's that? That's nonsense. Abbott didn't think it was real. Abbott knew it was bullshit and silly, but he had to do it because he needed to get reelected. And all of his idiot constituents thought that Obama was amassing troops. So Abbott had to respond. I don't respect that. See, he should have gotten up and maybe made a statement about it and explained to the fucking morons, but that's not the era we live in. They would have come for his head. They would have come for his head, so he knows he's got to play the game. That's who I think these people are. And then something like this happens, and it's just like, wow, that is incredible. All right, let's move more to world affairs. This was a story that popped off nationally yesterday. I follow a lot of sites that cover a lot of embedded journalists in the Ukraine war, and a lot of these international and Eastern European news sites that are all over Twitter. I have a lot of these, and goes back to my early days when the Ukraine war first started and we were real heavily covering it. I started following all of these people. So I still see them. I still get this constant flow of really interesting news stories about stuff that's happening there. And we don't talk about it much because, well, it's been going on now for is it almost 2 years or is it just 1 year? I don't know. But you can't really make it the top story every day. But there was a story that popped off yesterday that is incredibly concerning. It wasn't a big news story in America. It's not anything that we really talked about. Not even a big news story globally. It's not like Sky News or BBC or anything like that was covering it. But it's one of these news stories that in 30 years, there will be books written about the incident. And they'll be like, yeah, that's what started that. Everything that comes after. It's always like a little tiny silent thing. I mean, I don't know that the day the Gulf of Tonkin incident occurred or didn't occur, depending on who you ask. But I don't know if on the day that that occurred that everybody in America was walking around going, breaking news, did you hear about the Gulf of Tonkin? That's going to be the start of the Vietnam War. You know, I don't think they saw it in those terms. Now, years later, they look back and went, yeah, that whole shit started at the Gulf of Tonkin. Yesterday, a Chinese freighter, not yesterday, this was, I believe it was Monday, our time. A Chinese freighter ship, curiously enough, Chinese flagged freighter ship, curiously enough, being captained by a Russian captain. Isn't that a weird twosome? A Chinese freighter ship was chased down and boarded by Norwegian. Is it Norwegian? Wait, I want to make sure we get this right. Because the Danish Navy was involved, but I'm not sure who did the boarding. Chinese national ship chased down in open water by Danish Navy, guns out, they shot across the bow, causing the boat to make an emergency stop. The boat wasn't stopping. More Danish Navy showed up. They boarded, they arrested or they detained the captain. And here's what they were doing. This Chinese flagged freighter ship being captained by a Russian captain. And by the way, this Russian captain is a Russian military captain. Just so you know, not anymore. They said in the article, former retired, you know, that whole thing. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting. So why were they boarded? Why did the Danish police come after this Chinese flagged freighter ship being captained by an ex-military Russian? Because this ship had destroyed 5 undersea cables that link communications between all of Europe with each other. They were just dragging they were cutting the cables of communication, okay? It's called sabotage. Of course, they're calling it an accident. We forgot. We had the anchor down. We forgot. We've been going for the last 200 miles in open seas with the anchor down. We didn't mean to drag and slice all those. This is a major incident. This is a major international incident, and it depends now on what happens quietly in rooms that we'll never hear about over the next 3 days, what the next event is. But this is big. Remember the other day when I told you that I want regime change in Russia, I want regime change in Iran. Those are the 2 places where I, someone who don't consider themselves a hawk, would openly support armed intervention, a United States-backed action. But I also said about the situation in Ukraine, what I want is American machinery and American weaponry being utilized by European forces. I want the people who are under direct threat of Putin's expansionism to stand up and fight for themselves. Now, if they don't have cool guns and things that go boom, I, as an American, will help them with that because I want Putin dead. I want Russia to be a working partner with the rest of Europe. I think that would be great. So that's what I want. And the kind of thing that happened yesterday where you've got a Chinese freighter, a Chinese flagged freighter, dragging an anchor, cutting multiple communication lines, important communication lines, being captained, curiously, by a retired Russian military captain. During this point of the war, when everything's being ratcheted up because Biden gave permission for the Ukrainian army to use long-range missiles for the first time, and then the Kremlin began saber, rattling. They said, okay, fine. If they're going to begin using these American long-range missiles, then you don't want to know what we're going to do next. And oh, hey, by the way, United States, we're threatening you directly now. That happened 2 days ago. And now this. Before you completely commit yourself to a much larger war, before you expand the war, as we're all looking for Putin to probably do, and I think that's what he wants, what would you do? You would do shit like this. You would cut all the communication lines in the region, right? This is a big story. And nobody other than like 500,000 weirdos on YouTube, like me and a whole bunch of other like weirdos are like, this is big, but no mainstream coverage of this. There'll be books written if, in fact, something occurs now. Point is this the thing that starts World War III? Not necessarily. As I said, now, and in the coming hours, is when the diplomats in the back rooms decide what history says. If these guys fail, yeah, this could very much be an act of sabotage that is the opening salvo in what will be a much larger war and the entrance of NATO into this Ukraine-Russian thing. That's a bad thing. That's a world war at that point. Nah, it's not a world war. It's a war in Europe. We'll see what the Chinese do over there in Hong Kong. If that flies off the handle, then we can say we got a world war. But it was big news yesterday. It was big news, so be watching for that. Be watching anything that happens now. Like this. Okay, breaking news out of Russia. Last night, Russia used its first ICBM against the Ukrainian people, an intercontinental ballistic missile. These are the big ones. These are the ones that Russia launches and tries to take out Washington, D.C. with. These are long range of the highest order. At least they were back when they were first designed in the 70s and 80s. The intercontinental ballistic missile had not, to this point, been used by the Russian military. They used it last night, and they blew up a whole bunch of apartment complexes in, is it Kiev? I don't know what this is. I don't know if it was Kiev. They're not hitting Kiev. Point is this. This is a response to Ukraine saying, hey, America, can we use your longer range missiles so that we can strike deeper into Russia? And America said, yes, Ukraine, you can use those longer missiles. So they started using them. And then Russia in response went, we got longer missiles too. And that's what we got today. So it's this escalation. ICBMs are now being used by Russian forces. The Department of Justice is asking Google to spin off Chrome. I don't know a whole lot about this story. Yesterday was the anniversary of the Department of Justice breaking up AT&T, or Ma Bell, as it was caused back then. I talked about a little bit of all the madness and chaos that came in the years following that. I don't know if Google being asked to break off or spin off Chrome is the same thing, but how would that affect me? Like, how does this change affect you and I? Right now, Google is Chrome, right? I don't know that I make much of a distinction. I mean, I guess I don't really know. I know I use a Chrome browser, but it's not like if somebody said, what do you use to surf the internet? I'd go, a laptop. You know, I don't. So if Chrome is spun off from Google, I mean, I just go to my Google page and my Chrome is right there. And what about my Google Drive? What'll happen here? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like any of this. I don't know enough. And I don't want to read the details because this seems like a pretty boring story. Well, here's one. Hey, wait a second. I want to be in the chat room for this. Hold on. Where's my guys? Where are my boys? There's Byron. I need Byron. All right. I think I need Barney. Where's Barney? I need Barney. I need my boys. Come on. Come on, guys. I got some news for you. You're not going to like it. The Illinois Supreme Court this morning has overturned basically everything concerning Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett never did anything wrong. He's a completely free man, has no convictions on his record. So says the Illinois Supreme Court. How's that hit you, Barney? How's that hit you, Byron? Oh, the right hates this. Certain wing of MAGA is just like, because they, making fun of Jussie Smollett was a lot of fun. I know. I had a lot of fun with this. I called this story out from the very beginning. I lived in Chicago. I know that he did not walk 3 blocks to a Subway at 3 o'clock in the morning on the coldest night of the year. I knew that was bullshit because I lived in Chicago, and you don't do that. You don't do it. Stupid. Yeah, I had just gotten in from the airport, and it was late at night, and I was hungry, so I walked 3 blocks to a Subway to get a sandwich. That's when he says he got jumped. That's when he says all this stuff happened. Now, also, the other fun fact that, all the Chicago newspapers and people knew about and wrote about, but I never heard this mentioned because I don't know, whenever the Jussie Smollett conversation was had on the national stage, there was so much information that I know they had that they just didn't give us. Why? Because if we had this information, there would be no argument for it. People would be like, oh, this dude's lying. This dude's making it up. Information like the Subway that he claimed that he was walking to 3 blocks away there in River North in Chicago, which all of us pulled up on a map. Some of us has even been to that one. Oh, yeah, I know that one. That's the one over by McClurg Court. It was closed. It was closed. And he said he went there and got a sandwich. It was closed. So he wasn't going out to pick up a sandwich he'd ordered from Subway. They were closed, okay? And he wasn't going out anyway to walk 3 blocks on a day when, and I shit you not, it was minus 85 degrees wind chill factor. That was the day he went for a 3-block walk. The story was bullshit from the beginning. And everybody who lives in that climate was like, that story's bullshit. And here's how we also know it's bullshit. Because it was so cold, because it was the coldest night of the year, we also knew that there were no muggers out. There were no people when it's that cold, when it's that cold, there is nothing. All you see is just steam coming off the street. People don't stand. You can't stand in that. Exposed skin freezes in like 1 minute. You can't be outside in that. So that was always nonsense. But today, the Illinois Supreme Court, the Illinois Appellate Court, heard a complaint or heard a request from Jussie Smollett to have his record completely expunged. I don't know how this happened. I mean, this all happened because of Kim Foxx. Kim Foxx was what is she? District Attorney, Secretary of State, or whatever. It was all very. It was a mess. So, even though everyone knows that he did fake this attack, that's all true. Because of the actions of the people that brought the charges and defended and all that stuff, they overturned it. There was all kinds of nonsense. Kim Foxx, that's the woman's name. You want to be mad at somebody, it's her. But he still did it. I mean, it was still there. It was on the record. And he went to the appellate court in Illinois and he said, I need this removed. And the appellate court said, no, you did it. What you get when we realized that the district attorney's office and all that had done these crazy things, what you get for that was we just let you out of jail. But you did it. We don't get to remove that. That's what the appellate court told him. So he went to the Illinois Supreme Court, and the Illinois Supreme Court said, yeah, no problem. We'll get rid of it. You're fine. Jussie Smollett has never done anything wrong. Legally and technically, nothing. There's nothing on his record now. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he got caught for a DUI when he was 17. I don't know. But there's nothing like this on his record. He walked scot-free. Or did he? His career's over. Jussie Smollett can never work again. What do you see? Jussie, is he going to work again? Maybe 10 years. Maybe 10 years. I'll give him 10 years because, Jane Fonda was pretty bad for a while. Jane Fonda couldn't work but she came back. People forgot about her. They give her a break. I don't know. Will Jussie Smollett come back? No. I don't know. I got to believe. I don't think so. And you know what the real crime on this is? Because, the real crime is his doing, but it's not a crime. The real weird twist, and maybe it's irony. Maybe the irony is, I don't know. Is this irony? Yeah, it's kind of ironic. Of this whole thing is that he'll never work again. He'll never get another shot. And he's incredibly talented. Yeah, I know. If you just want to hate him across the board because you don't know shit about him and you just know this story and he hates MAGA and he's a weirdo and he's a liar and he's a con man, all of that stuff is true. He's also wildly talented. I remember the first time I saw that kid on Empire, I went, holy shit, this is like the new Michael Jackson. He can dance, he can sing, play multiple instruments. He is a wickedly talented dude. And his career is over because he's a piece of shit. So there you go. There you go. Remember the police came knocking at his door the night he called 911. He's like, yeah. Goes 911. Cops come knocking at the door. They open the door opens up. Jussie Smollett's standing there. He's got a noose around his neck. He kept it around his neck. I ask you, if you were beaten and abused on the street and humiliated and they hung a noose around your neck and it was over and you walked your way back home to your apartment and you've called the police and the police showed up, that's probably 15, 20 minutes. Are you still going to have that noose around your neck or is it going to be over there on the counter? Yeah, it's over there on the counter. Are you still going to, or are you being performative? Jussie Smollett, he's just so bad at this. It's because he's stupid. He's stupid. He's wildly talented, but he's stupid. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? I don't want to do the Linda McMahon stuff. She's at Department of Education. Okay, great. No problem. Oh, although this is pretty funny. Linda McMahon, of course, the wife of Vince McMahon, WWE and all of that good stuff. She is going to be appointed, or at least she's Trump's pick for the Department of Education. She's going to be in charge of educating our kids. And this is really funny. Somebody was sharing this yesterday. I got to share it with you. This is insane. This is like the closest thing that people think they're wits. People think they're funny. People think they're charming when they say stuff like, we're living in a real idiocracy. And I've said it myself. I'm like, God, this is like the movie Idiocracy. What we're seeing, this is all too. And honestly, until this moment, it had always been just not really, but now it is. Check this out. As someone shared on Twitter yesterday, this is the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, and the next Secretary of the Department of Education in the United States. You tell me that this isn't idiotic. There she is, Madam Secretary. It's the county board chairman and mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, formerly known as Kane, the wrestler. That's right. That's the county board chairman and the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, and Linda McMahon, your next education secretary. I mean, come on, man. You're not a serious person. I'm not a hater. I don't hate them all across the board. I told you I thought Susie Wiles as a chief of staff, that's a nice pick. I'm concerned she's a lobbyist. I mean, if I thought that was the whole thing. Like, I'm going to drain the swamp. The swamp was lobbyists. You called them out by name. Now you made the second most important person in your administration a lobbyist. How you draining the swamp? But anyway, my point is this. Susie Wiles isn't a circus freak. Susie Wiles is a serious person, and I'm confident that she'll do a good job. So I'm not just across the board against everybody. And I don't know anything about Linda McMahon. I really don't. I watched the Mr. McMahon documentary, and there wasn't a whole lot about her. She made a couple of appearances, but she seems like a competent woman. But I don't know that she's really, I mean, why do you want the smoke? You're putting that person who has that stuff in her past up for Senate confirmation as Secretary of Education? Somebody who comes from the world of wrestling. I'm not saying that it's absolutely not anything that could happen or should ever happen, but doesn't it just look tonally weird? Why are we doing the weird shit? Why is this still happening? You're telling me there's not somebody that we've never fucking heard of who has run multiple school districts who wouldn't be a better choice for the person in charge of the Department of Education than the wife of Vince McMahon? Really? Because that's what that position has been filled by in every other case. Oh, well, that's the problem, Pugs. No, it's not the individuals. It's the bureaucracy that the individuals are asked to navigate. That's the problem with these things. Linda McMahon, you think she's going to come in and fix the education system? What's her background? How the fuck is that even something anyone would expect from her? Was she even a school teacher? What is Linda McMahon other than the wife of Vince McMahon? This is absurd. So look, I found this. I thought this was funny. This is the cabinet scene from Idiocracy. Let's watch this. And you tell me how wildly different what we just watched. Two legitimate American politicians, Kane and Linda McMahon. We just watched that video. How is that different than this? Meet the cabinet from Idiocracy.
What is this?
Okay, sir. This is the White House.
What are we doing at the White House?
What?
Ow! Ow! Ow!
It turned out the results of Joe's IQ test had caught the attention of the highest levels of government.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm the smartest guy in the world? Says who?
The IQ test you took in prison. You got the highest score in history. Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Yeah, dumbass. You're even smarter than President Camacho. That's how come he's making you Secretary of Interior.
Okay, so who are you?
I'm the Secretary of Energy.
I won a contest, got to be a cabinet member. I'm the Secretary of State. Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Why do you keep saying that?
Because they pay me every time I do. It's a really good way to make money. You're so smart, why don't you know that? Motherfucker. The Secretary of Defense.
Huh?
And Funbags over there is the Attorney General.
And that's Secretary of Education.
It's kind of stupid, but he's President Camacho's stepbrother. Still does a pretty good job, eh?
You know, I think there's been some kind of mistake, because the test I took was real easy. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Okay?
Now,
All right, we don't need to do the President Camacho scene, but there you have it. I mean, you tell me how we're living in the upside down. CC says that Linda McMahon served on the Connecticut Board of Education for a year starting in 2009. She told lawmakers at the time that she had a lifelong interest in education and once planned on becoming a teacher. Oh, did you? You had an interest, did you? And you planned? Ah, please, don't worry about that. What do you say we just put you in charge of all the teachers everywhere? Because you had an interest. You never were a teacher and you never did it, but that's like me when I say, I had an interest in being a rock star. I would like to be somebody make me a rock star. My whole life, I've had an interest in being a rock star. It's crazy. Anyway, moving on. Let's see, what else do we have here? No. I don't want to do this. There's a Marjorie Taylor Greene story. She has been named to a panel on government efficiency. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has never had a significant role in any committee. As a matter of fact, she was banned from committees. She's not allowed to be on committees. She is now being put in charge of a panel on government inefficiency. A woman who drove a CrossFit gym into bankruptcy in less than a year is now being put in charge of a panel on government efficiency. I think it would be quite efficient if we just got rid of that panel to begin with. What's Marjorie Taylor Greene's background in government efficiency? She ran a CrossFit gym in Marietta, Georgia, into bankruptcy in less than a year. That's what she's bringing to the table. So cool. There are serious people in the Republican Party that can do these jobs. Marjorie Taylor Greene has never been trusted with a committee seat. She certainly has never had any power on a committee. It's not like she's ever chaired or been a chairwoman. No, but now I fear that's about to change, and it's beginning with her being appointed as the committee leader, not the committee leader, I'm sorry, the chair of a panel on government efficiency. Which is a weird thing because she also did this yesterday. Marjorie Taylor Greene does nothing but accuse people by name of being groomers, right? Isn't that her whole thing? Bill Clinton is a groomer. Dick Durbin is a groomer. Adam Schiff is a groomer. And we're going to end all of these groomers. And I'm calling them out by name because the children, and we need to protect the children because of groomers. So apparently she seems to be very dialed in on groomers, and it's a very important thing to her. And she is gonna, she calls them out, all the Democrats by name, groomers. Well, guess what? Breaking news. Apparently, Marjorie Taylor Greene has a list of groomers and pedophiles in the Republican Party that she has never until this moment mentioned. I mean, she's always been really into the Democratic groomers, but now she's threatening to release the names of all the Republicans who are groomers and pedophiles if Trump's picks aren't unanimously. So pause, take a break, and let's talk about the mind of Marjorie Taylor Greene. So she really doesn't care about grooming of children. She doesn't care about the trauma and the tragedy and the stuff that the kids go through. She only cares about it insofar as she can demean someone like Adam Schiff or Tom Hanks or Bill Clinton or whatever. That's when she cares about it. It's not about the kids. Because now we're learning that all this time she has had a list of Republican groomers that she has allowed to just go out and run free. Never once did she name any one of these people in protection of our nation's children. No. Yeah, no. No, she had this list. And here's the other thing. This is why I say, let's get in her mind. Let's get in the mind of Marjorie Taylor Greene. What she's saying here is someone very concerned about the health and safety of children and sexual grooming and all that. Here's what she's saying. She's saying, if you don't unilaterally confirm everybody President Trump wants, I am going to out all of my GOP brothers who are pedophiles and groomers. So what if they do? So this is Marjorie Taylor Greene's brain. So if they do what she says, Marjorie Taylor Greene is perfectly fine with the Republican Party being filled with groomers and pedophiles. This is how a stupid person's brain works. But let's put her in charge of a panel, right? Did you follow along? She has a list of people who are dangerous to children, who are in the Republican Party, and she is going to name them if Trump doesn't get everything he wants. If Trump gets everything he wants, then it's fine. Congress is going to be filled with Republican perverts and groomers. This is the mind of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Moving on. Jay Leno yesterday, I felt really bad. We didn't get the good Jay Leno picture. Remember the story? He was doing a show at a casino. He decided to take a shortcut to a restaurant. He went down a 70-foot hill. Apparently went end over end, banged his head on a rock. I was like, oh, we got a cool picture of Jay Leno looking all busted up. And then I couldn't find it. It was horrible. But check this out. We actually got an interview. This is from Inside Edition. You get him. He looks terrible. I mean, I feel bad for the old guy. We talked yesterday. I kind of worked through my issues with Jay Leno. I like Jay Leno. Here you go. Let's check him out. Look at his face.
On earth happened to Jay Leno?
Oh, your poor face.
Look at my eye. Oh my gosh. Jay Leno is all bruised up. The left side of his face is black and blue. His eye is swollen shut. And look at his injured wrist.
I broke my wrist, lost the nail on the finger, and then I'm all black and blue.
The comedian says he fell down a 60-foot hill.
I said, well, the hill doesn't look that steep. Let me take it down! And then
You rolled down a hill?
Oh, shit.
That's not true.
No, that's true.
Jay Leno says he was staying at a Hampton Inn about 30 miles outside of Pittsburgh on Saturday night when he wanted to have dinner at a local restaurant before his show. Instead of walking a mile and a half down the road, he decided to take a shortcut down the hill. Not a good idea. This is believed to be the steep incline he tumbled down.
Well, I hit a bunch of rocks. It was 60 feet.
Incredibly, the famous workaholic legend performed.
Hold on a second. Okay, look, we don't need this story anymore. That's crazy. Jay Leno's face is completely jacked. That looks painful. Jay Leno stayed in Hampton Inns? Jay Leno was staying in a Hampton Inn? So he went to go play this casino? And he didn't stay? Is there no resort? Do they not have rooms for high rollers? Jay Leno stayed at a Hampton Inn? That is, I gotta tell you. Now, I know that there are a bunch of people out there on the internets because everybody loves a conspiracy. They're like, that's not a true story. Nobody believes it. We're supposed to believe that Jay Leno stays at a Hampton Inn. I mean, I can kind of believe it that Jay Leno would stay. I bet you Jay Leno is fine flying coach too. I told you yesterday, I told you the story about Jay Leno, about how just every time I've seen him and when I attended the Tonight Show, he was just so incredible with just the random people. He dedicated so much time. The time I saw him in Chicago, I told you about how after the show, when all he probably wants to do is just go home, what did he do? He recognized that this was a thrill for the people in Chicago to see a Tonight Show. So he came out from backstage after the show, and as people were leaving, he's like, nah, hold on, folks, hold on. And he just did like another 20 minutes of just talking and taking questions and taking pictures with people. It was incredible. And I sat there and I'm watching this and I'm like, that guy deserves his stardom. Whatever it is that, I think maybe he's a dick about this or he did that. That kind of thing, when you do that kind of thing for the people who appreciate your creativity and your art or whatever it is that you do, when you are so thoughtful towards them and so appreciative that you, even though you just want to go back to your room, put your feet up, maybe lay on the couch. No, you don't. You're like, you know what? These people came out to see me. They really like me. This is a huge thrill for them. I'm going to make sure that they get what they want. That's incredible. So do I believe that Jay Leno might actually stay at Hampton Inns when he's traveling on the road and he's flying? Sure. Because I also, like I said, he probably flies coach if he has to. He doesn't seem like a diva. And I think that's the reason America liked him so much. All right, so Jay Leno, there you go. Barney says, so what's the alternative? Letterman and Schaefer beat him up? Yeah, I know. Well, no, Barney, one of the ones that I was reading, and there was this long thread, was that, oh, well, hey, I know what a comic who gets out of line at a casino, who gets beat up by wise guys looks like. It was all these people like it's 1974 Vegas, and he's playing the Stardust. I'm like, that's not. First of all, there is no mob like that anymore. There's not. There are still, but it's not like that. It's not like where entertainers, comedians playing casino gigs get beaten. That's not, no. So, but that's one of the things they were saying. And I thought that was funny. They're like, you got out of line to Tony the Fish and, hey, funny boy, smack, smack, smack. It's not a 2024 thing. It's a 1974 thing. Absolutely. Probably 1984 thing too, but definitely not 2024. Sports Bra says maybe he's a degenerate gambler and didn't want to stay at the casino. Well, there you. Oh, wait a second. Okay. So I thought you were going with he's a degenerate gambler and he got the shit kicked out of him. And I'm like, no, Jay Leno can't be a degenerate gambler. He also can't be a troubled drug addict. He's got too much money. He can be. It's not a problem for him. He's got to be almost a billionaire. Jay Leno makes like $100,000 every Saturday night because he relentlessly tours and does shows every Saturday in Vegas or a casino. I mean, no, it's not a problem if you got the money. That's what they said about Kurt Cobain. You ever seen that? You ever seen that documentary, Kurt and Courtney? Kurt Cobain's friends. They're all sitting around. They're like, well, yeah, he was always on heroin, but it wasn't a problem. It wasn't like he was robbing liquor stores. And I'm like, God damn, isn't that like one of the smartest things I've ever heard? That is true. I mean, maybe other than your own personal health from using heroin, you're really not a problem. If you're the problem with junkies is that, they got nowhere to be. They're laying on the street and that they're robbing, liquor stores and stuff. That's the problem with being a junkie. But if you're a rock star junkie and you've got a house and a couch and a big screen TV, go ahead, do it, man. Freedom, America. I don't care. Thought that was interesting. All right, let's keep going. Here we go. More news stories. Jay Leno, his face, we got to see that, so we're all good with that. Ellen and Portia. They're moving. They're leaving. They're leaving the United States. Is it because Donald Trump was elected? Well, let's see. Let's find out. I love Portia de Rossi. I love Ellen DeGeneres. Well, I mean, I don't love Ellen DeGeneres. I've told you many times I knew somebody who worked for her once, and she's a complete bitch. And that's not just the rumors. Those rumors came out like 5 years ago. People started talking about it. It's because she fires everybody all the time. And over the course of a 10, 15-year show, those people are going to start making their feelings for you known. And you're going to stop being wonderful Ellen who dances, and you're going to start being the chick who fires people for bringing a cold cup of coffee, that kind of shit. So Ellen has kind of had that. Now, I have a friend who is good friends with Ellen, who I have had this conversation with, Dean Lewis, local Dallas icon. Dean, right? We all know Dean Lewis. And Dean's like, no, dude, you got it all wrong. Ellen is like one of the coolest people. She's so nice. And I'm like, I don't know, man. And he's like, well, I mean, she could get short with people. I'm like, He defends her, but I don't know. I know another guy, a girl, who worked for her. And she's like, no, man, she's not cool. Now, on the other side of that is her wife, Portia de Rossi. I love Portia de Rossi. I love her. Love everything about her. Lindsay Bluth on Arrested Development. She changed my perception of what female comedy could be. Yeah, she did. She did. I mean, to a greater extent than maybe Mary Tyler Moore or even Julia Louis-Dreyfus to that point had. Portia de Rossi was a perfect 10 supermodel, gorgeous woman who could make me double over in laughter. That was rare. I didn't think that was the thing that could be done. I didn't think that really smoking hot girls who I was hot for could make me laugh. And Portia de Rossi, especially as Lindsay Bluth in Arrested Development, is just hysterical. So I like her. Ellen DeGeneres and her wife, Portia de Rossi, are living in England and plan to sell their U.S. home. This according to multiple reports. By the way, this comes to us not from some crazy right-wing thing. This comes to us from E-News. So this is industry stamped and approved. The pair have moved to England and plan to sell their residence in Montecito, California. Multiple outlets reported, citing sources as saying the reason for their relocation was former President Donald Trump's victory over Vice President Kamala Harris, who Ellen had endorsed. E! News has reached out to reps for both Ellen and Portia and has not yet heard back. It seems the couple who tied the knot in 2008 is all 2010, 12, 4, 16 years. Them crazy lessies. Good for them. 18 years making it work. That's actually nice. I guess I hadn't really thought about that. They're married for 18 years. They're an old married couple at this point. Good for them. And it seems the couple who tied the knot in 2008 is already setting in across the pond, as they've been spotted last week at pubs. They're going to pubs and stuff. As seen in the video, blah, 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 blah. Oh, check this out. As seen in a video that his girlfriend, Lisa Hogan, shared on Instagram. All right, so there's a British TV host, celebrity, named Jeremy Clarkson. Apparently, Portia and Ellen went out to dinner with Jeremy Clarkson and Jeremy Clarkson's girlfriend, and her name is Lisa Hogan. So here, this is the party that was happening in this little pub in England. As seen in a video that Clarkson's girlfriend Hogan shared on Instagram, Ellen and Portia watched an acoustic performance of The Coors and were also joined by singer Natalie Imbruglia, best known for the 1997 hit Torn, who tours with the Irish group. I'd like to be there. I love The Coors. Oh, man. I don't think the Coors are as famous as I think they are. I don't think the Coors are as famous as I think they are. I think Natalie Imbruglia is famous. Anyway, that's a cool party. Portia de Rossi, the Coors playing, Natalie Imbruglia, Ellen DeGeneres probably got some quick one-liners, making comments about people. I'm sure that's a fun time. Anyway, they're over there in England. Here's the thing about rich people leaving this country because of Donald Trump. Here's the thing. Must be nice. That's what I'd say. You're really kind of walking away from the whole elitist thing that the rest of us look at you. I mean, the reason we distrust this class of people, the fabulous class, if you will, is because of this whole elitist kind of thing. They're better than us. Well, yeah. I mean, look, if you could just pick up and drop everything and sell your Montecito estate and move to England for 4 years because your butt hurt over the results of an election, must be fucking nice. But don't ever think I'll take you serious on anything ever again because you're just an elitist prick. That's who you are. There you go. Ellen and Portia. They'll be back. Portia will be back. She loves California. She doesn't want to be in England with bad teeth and horrible food. All right, let's go. What else do we have here? Jaguar. Well, speaking of England, just in time for Ellen's arrival. So Jaguar is trending today, and a lot of people are extraordinarily upset. And I had to click on the story, and I had to read this because I don't know if many of you know, my son knows, and some of my closest friends know, Jaguar is my favorite car brand. My dream car is a British racing green. Is it 96 XK12? Something in there. Anyway, it's my favorite car. It's like my car. That's the car. My dream car is a mid-90s British racing green Jaguar 12-cylinder. Anyway, I love the car. I love the car brand. I love what the brand stands for. I love what the brand stands for in racing circles. Now look, what it stands for in American driveways is oil stains and constantly in and out of the shop. We know that, okay? That's why it's a rich person's car. It's not. It doesn't run like a Toyota Celica, like a 95 Celica with 200,000 miles on it. No, the Jaguar's a little bit more temperamental than that, but still, it's a beautiful car, and it's the reputation and it's what it stands for, and the British elegance and sophistication. The color, the British racing green Jaguar. the logo, the sleek chrome leaping Jaguar. It's just cool. It's just cool. I like that car. Well, they're changing. They are moving away from everything that I like about Jaguar. Jaguar Land Rover, they've already announced their plans to, by 2030, be entirely electric. So the Jaguar Land Rover brand by 2030 is expected to be completely electric e-vehicles. But also, they just want to introduce Jaguar to a completely new world, and they want to show how they're different. So this is the Jaguar rebrand. This was released yesterday. It is a YouTube video of what to expect from the new Jaguar. We're not your daddy's Jaguar anymore. You remember that? That was a Buick line. That was a great advertising line. It's not your father's Buick. That's pretty good. That was pretty good. I believe they introduced that. Didn't they introduce that marketing campaign? This is not your father's Buick with William Shatner and his daughter, right? Wasn't that it? Anyway, this is not your father's Jaguar. Here you go. Here is Jaguar announcing that they've changed. Well, how do we make it big? Is this too big? Oh my God, it's almost too big. All right, here we go. All right, you know what? Let's just go back. All right, we'll start it again. All right. So we all know what Jaguar is. Refinement, sophistication, elegance, British sophistication, Bond, that kind of thing. Very soft leather seats. Just the Jaguar. That's what they represent. Not anymore. Here's the new introduction of the rebrand for Jaguar. Enjoy. So yeah, that's, did you notice the new logo? The new logo. Did you guys see that at the very end there? It's just the word Jaguar. It's just Jaguar. That's it. No more leaping chrome Jaguar. No more cool. No, the logo's gone. It's just Jaguar. And excuse me, but isn't a Jaguar a car? Did I miss something? Did anybody see a car in that ad? I mean, my God, that looked like that looked like the kind of video that one would receive as an invitation to a gay rave. That did not look like what brand. It wouldn't be so insulting if Jaguar didn't already have such a well-established and historic brand in the automobile industry. But now they've turned it into, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is. Getting very upset. Barney says he thinks it was Oldsmobile. Yeah, maybe it was. Not Buick. But I was right about the William Shatner and his daughter, though, right? Was it an Oldsmobile commercial? Anyway, still, great campaign, although not as great as I thought. Because I didn't remember it was Oldsmobile. And that's the most important thing. Not the catchphrase or the stars of the commercial, remembering the brand. And I didn't. So maybe it wasn't as good as I thought. All right. Jaguar rebrand. Let's see here. Okay, so it's a big movie weekend. They're saying, look, there's really no such thing as big movie weekends anymore, at least not in the way that we used to experience them. Nobody goes to movie theaters. There needs to be these huge draws in order to get any kind of interest. We saw it last summer, Oppenheimer and Barbie. Remember, that was the big Barbenheimer, and it's these two movies that appeal to extraordinarily large audiences of two very different types of people. That's what Oppenheimer and Barbie was. The Cineplexes were expected to be jam-packed because people who would want to see Barbie were probably not the same people excited to see Oppenheimer, and a lot of people were excited about Barbie, and a lot of people were excited about Oppenheimer. So that perfect storm sort of came together last July 4th weekend, was it? Not this past one, but 2 years ago. So ever since then, the box office week after week in Hollywood has been incredibly depressing, but they are very, very excited about what could happen this weekend. Could we be seeing another Barbenheimer top thing? Because this weekend we've got Gladiator 2, the much anticipated Gladiator 2. Ridley Scott? Is it Ridley Scott? I don't know enough about it. I got to tell you, I got to be honest. I thought Gladiator 1 was a little overrated. I mean, it's cool. I've only seen it once. Like, I've only seen it the one time I saw it in the movies. And I remember seeing it with a girlfriend, and then we were like, it wasn't going well. So I think maybe the fact that I didn't want to be at the movie with this person watching Gladiator sort of is why I don't think of Gladiator as that great of a movie. Maybe I need to watch it again. Maybe that's it. Anyway, Gladiator 2 is coming out, and people are very excited. People are like, oh, it's going to be huge. But also, so that's a very specific, that's a male thing, right? That's going to be guys. That's going to be guys dragging women. That's going to be guys going at young men, 18, 19, 20. Dude, let's go to the movie and see Gladiator. You know, it's going to be all of that. That's going to be a good showing. But then on the other side of the hall, you got Wicked. Wicked, which is like, you know, as close to something like Barbie as you could get. Wicked is, of course, the Broadway musical adaptation, or an updating, I guess, continuation of the story of Wizard of Oz. Wicked is the story of the three wicked witches. And I don't know anything about it. I've never seen the story. I don't know what it is. Seems kind of interesting. I mean, but only because I have a familiarity with the Wizard of Oz. I might get like 20 minutes into Wicked and be like, yeah, I get it. Okay, I don't need to see anymore. I get what they're going for, which is fine. Anyway, this weekend, Wicked and Gladiator are both opening wide across America and Hollywood, and the film industry is watching very closely. We shall see. Yes, as Adam says, excuse me, Wicked Part 1, you mean? Not Wizard of Oz. So yeah, very exciting. I won't see either. I don't go to movies. Oh, here's what I won't see. Here's why I won't see either. So we're watching TV. We're watching football last weekend, me and my kid, my 15-year-old son, and a trailer commercial for Gladiator 2 comes on. And my kid, my 15-year-old kid, he's like, oh, that looks so badass. Like, I can see the effectiveness of this film and how it's being marketed on my 15-year-old. Like, I can see my 15-year-old's talking about it with his friends, and yeah, it's gonna be hard. He knows the people who are in it. I'm like, oh, Denzel, isn't he in it? So he's like, oh, Dad, I can't wait to see this movie. And I turn to him and I say, have you seen Gladiator 1? And he goes, nah. And I go, well, let's watch Gladiator 1. We got to watch Gladiator. And he goes, nah, I got no interest. I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? I love my kid, but you can't be this excited about seeing this movie, a sequel, and have zero interest in what the original is. And you know why? You know why he has zero interest in what the original is? Because it's 20 years old. Because in his mind, the Russell Crowe Gladiator is an old-timey movie. It's from this millennium. It's not even from the 90s. I mean, isn't it? Right? Wait, I don't know. When did Gladiator come out? Oh, I got to check this out. Guys, I'm sorry. I for some reason in my head, Gladiator came out in like 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere in there. I don't know. Maybe it's crazy. No, I don't want Gladiator 2. I want 2000. There it is. Okay, so it was. So it was made in 2000. I was right. All right, I had that kind of right. Anyway, I'll see both these movies. Not because I necessarily want to see either movie, but because cultural demand is going to require me to have some working knowledge. It's the whole reason why I watched Barbie. I wasn't going to watch Barbie. It was on. I had nothing to do. I said, I'll stare at this for a while. I'm like, worst case scenario, it's Margot Robbie. You know, I find her delightful. This, you know, how bad can it be? And then you got freaking Ken. Who was that? Who played Ken? Who's that guy? See, this is how you know I'm not gay. Because if I was gay, I'd totally know the name of the dude who played Ken. But I obviously don't think about him that much. Ryan Gosling. There you go. Ryan Gosling. I was able to rattle off Margot Robbie pretty quickly. Hope you noticed and appreciate that. Ken was funny. And yeah, but I never got all the way through Barbie. I got like 40 minutes into Barbie. I never even got into the actual plot of it. I think I watched, there was just one too many dance scenes. I put up with a dance scene in the very beginning of Barbie, and I'm like, okay, this is probably just the big open, and it's going to be a normal movie. And then there was another dance scene, 5 minutes later, and I'm like, okay, is this a musical? And then on the third thing, I was like, nope, I'm out. I can't. I have every plan to one day go back and finish watching Barbie, but honestly, at this point, I don't even know what the first 20 minutes were about, so I probably have to start over. And in so much as I am interested to see Gladiator 2, that'll be one that I'll wait until it shows up on, Netflix or whatever. Prime. I don't go to movies anymore. If I didn't go to the theaters to see either the most recent release of The Apprentice, which I was very interested in seeing, or Saturday Night, the Saturday Night Live movie, which I also just see. If I didn't go to the theaters to see those movies, I ain't going to the theater to see anything, because those are two movies that are really specifically connecting with me and my tastes. What else do we have here? All right, let's end it this way, folks. We'll cut the show not short. Look at us. We've gone an extra 40 minutes today. So glad you could hang out. Let's go through a list here. Was released. I'm going to call it the list of the skankiest states, because that's what this is. But in reality, this is a list of America's states with the most STDs. So these are the states where, I don't know, you're hooking up. Maybe you're just traveling through Alabama, spending the night in Montgomery. You're going to want to wrap that rascal, okay? Because these are the skankiest states in America. Are you ready? Number 10. The 10th skankiest state in America is New York. New York has a total STD rate of 857 cases per 100,000 people. Number 9 is Arkansas. Right? I mean, you had to imagine that, there are going to be certain states that we expect to see, and Arkansas is one of them, right? I know we're going to see Mississippi. That's coming. I got a feeling that maybe Florida might be in here. I don't know. We'll see. Vegas, right? I would think maybe Vegas STDs, or do people get the STDs in Vegas and then bring them back to maybe that's it. Maybe people don't get diagnosed as much in Vegas with STDs because they don't get diagnosed until a couple of weeks later when they go home. And it's like, oh, I must have got this in Vegas. STD is the only thing that doesn't stay in Vegas. All right, number 8, South Carolina. South Carolina has an 882 cases of STDs per 100,000. North Carolina is 7th. Alabama is 6th. There she is. You knew she was going to be there. And here we go. Now we're into the top 5 skankiest states in these here United States. Coming in at number 5 with an STD rate of 1,000 per every 100,000 people, Georgia. Number 4, South Dakota. Number 3 is Alaska. Number 2 is Mississippi. Well, you knew Mississippi was going to be there. But okay, here we go. So number 1. What is the skankiest state in America? Is it Florida? We haven't seen Florida yet. I think it could be Florida. And by the way, total honesty, I haven't looked at this list yet. I wanted to do this live. Number 1, Florida. We haven't seen Florida, right? Hawaii, Alaska. There's not enough. Florida. I got to go with Florida. What are okay, so what are the things that would cause high STD? I would say lack of condoms. Okay, so that puts me in the South for a lot of things because, it's a Christian thing. It's a very, not as, anyway, my point is this. I was thinking like rural places like North Dakota, South Dakota. That's why I said Alaska. Because if you're in Alaska and you're hooking up and you need to run to a convenience store to get some condoms, I don't know how convenient that is. All right, number 1, skankiest. Let's reveal it. I'm saying it's Florida. Number 1 skankiest state in America. Whoa! Holy shit! All right. I didn't see this one coming, but I want to see if anyone in the chat room did. Go ahead. I'll give you a couple of more seconds. Go ahead. Start spitting some out. What do you think is number one? It's not any that I just mentioned. I did not see this. Rob says Maine. We've got Florida is being mentioned. Arkansas. Mike D says Louisiana. Ladies and gentlemen, Louisiana is the skankiest state in America. Louisiana has a 1,181 cases of STDs for every 100,000 people. That's a lot. Why? What's going on down there? Is it a combination of like the people go there to be crazy and have fun and get drunk and do things that they regret, and that it's in the South and it has like all of these sort of Southern, feelings about condoms and sex and Christianity isn't or I don't know. Honestly, if you're asking me and my thoughts on Louisiana, I should have thought of it. I should have put it right up there. I don't know why I didn't think Louisiana is so skanky. The downtown of New Orleans is so skanky. It's all skanky. Everything smells weird. It's humid. There's bugs, crime. It seems to be absolute chaos all the time in Louisiana. No, thank you. All right, there you go. Peter says, I don't know why you're surprised because New Orleans is filthy. Yeah, I know. I shouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I'm surprised that I didn't think of it. I'm surprised when I was working through the Alaskas and the Alabamas and all that. I'm surprised I didn't go, oh, Louisiana's pretty skanky. CNN is now breaking the news. New developments. Jussie Smollett's conviction over hate crime hoax has been overturned. All right, on that note, I'm going to leave you guys. We'll be back tomorrow for a Friday show. We'll roll right into the weekend, and then it's Thanksgiving week. Do some special things next week for Thanksgiving. We won't be doing a show on Thanksgiving. I don't believe we will. I don't know. Who knows? You never know. Maybe I'll record something special and release it on that. Nobody's gonna watch it. Or will more people watch it? See, that's the thing. I don't know. Al says Tom Segura pretty much said that a while back. Said what, Al? What did he say? Yeah, said what? There's a 30-second delay in the chat room, so I see things that you're responding to that are from 30 seconds or more ago, and sometimes I forget what we were talking about 30 seconds ago. No, you're awesome. All right, thank you, guys. We're going to end this, okay? One more time, a big thank you to today's executive producer, the incredibly talented and always there for us, Tracy D. Thank you, Tracy. And on that, we're going to end the show. All right. We usually have a better way to do this, a more professional way of closing the show, right? Like there's a way that I open, and it's a very professional way. I say the same thing every day. Oh, welcome to the Rant. Pugs Moran, live from the Kelly Moore Memorial. See, I have the same thing. I need to create something for the close. I don't know. I'll work on that.